right? Everyone's take was so whack after this series because everyone's take went like this. They were all like, wow, ha, bet Cloud9 wishes they had LS now. Right, based on the things I know about that situation, that thought never went through their brain once. Here was what they actually thought, and it's going to hurt a lot of your feelings. What they actually thought was this: shit, imagine how much worse it would have gone if we'd kept LS. That's what they were thinking, Monty. I tell you right now. We're here for another episode of Summoning Insight. Me and Monty have returned. The logic is China has so many great players, you can make it work. And if people haven't noticed, perfect timing. The best 3 mid laners in the LPL are going to contest the title. Zhao Hu's waiting in the final. He's back at mid lane if people don't know. Knight obviously is going to play now against Rookie again. Like, this is actually a fucking awesome setup if you're a fan of the LPL. These are the best teams. These are the ones you want to watch play.
Hey, fuck, man. Even if you're not a fan of the LPL, like, you should definitely watch the new the 2 best of 5s in the LPL, because even though they have been pretty flawed games, I would say, and they've kind of been fiestas, they've been incredibly entertaining fiestas. So the best of 5s that have been happening have been already good. It will be fun to watch these matches. So you should definitely check them out later this week, whether you do it live or in the VOD format. They are going to be incredibly impactful.
Though, I will say, I'm with you, Monty. If I actually had to pick, I would take V5 on that matchup. I wouldn't take top. And one of the reasons why is if no one's watched top this split, like, I don't even know how fucking Tian got signed to top esports, because I would never have signed that player after last year in FPX. Like, he is like, it's a microcosm now. The problem he has is this, mate, he either carries the game or completely feeds like a shitter. He has no in between. And as a jungler, like, I think people have watched the LEC show. No, I like stable junglers like Yankos, mate, where I know what I'm going to get through every game. This guy's a nightmare. Like, he could totally, you could win worlds with him as he did, but he could also he could do in FPX last year. That's a perfect example, Monty. He went to worlds one time, he was arguably the MVP. He went to worlds another time, he was fucking garbage, wasn't he? Like, that is Tian in a nutshell. I don't know. This guy's the biggest coin flipper of all time. It's mental.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, esportsbet. Head on over there. You can play for free with DJT, which is their token. If you join their Discord and message ModMail, you can get even more DJT just to have fun with. We've been doing watch parties with them as well. We will do a watch party for the LCS Finals coming up this weekend also, so you can enjoy that if you're on with us. We usually do the first game on Twitch, and then we head over to the esportsbet Discord to do audio-only watch parties, depending on whether Discord dies or not. We could continue it on Twitch, etc. But it's been really fun, and you guys can play along. Send us any good tickets that you guys have, any cool parlays you make that do well, and we can take questions and feature those. So that's it. Thank you. We're going to talk about the LPL now in a little more depth, because this matchup, we'll use these odds as a kicking off point, because people will be like, well, top 1, but it's really about how top 1.
And also, spoiler, if people didn't see the other series, top was fucking terrible in the RNG series. Like, actually, they're looking in real trouble, mate.
So the weird thing is about this matchup is that in the previous matchup, V5 should have won 3-0. And in the top versus RNG matchup, top should have won all 4 games. Like, they had substantial advantages in every single game. Yep. So we're looking at teams that were very throwy.
Yes, it's really messy, League of Legends, really messy.
Really messy. And like on the V5 side, so we talked about kind of distinct identities for each of these teams. You notice Tian, is he feast or famine, 100%. On V5 side, one of their big problems is PP God has been really kind of bad on all champions that are not Leona in the playoffs. So he's 4-1 on Leona in these playoffs, and he's 1-3 on all other champions. He has 1-1 on Renata Glask, and he lost his Rakan and Tom Kench games. And the problem with V5 is they've literally never seen a fight they didn't like. So they will fight anything, but they'll fight things with like Tom Kench and Renata too early on in the game. So they'll lose early skirmishes around Dragon. So it's like they don't understand how to really plan for objective fights or timings. And I think, like, for me, that's V5's biggest weakness right now. And I think they need to pivot back towards PP God being on kind of hard CC, tanky, engage supports, which they did, to their credit, when they played their second series in the playoffs. When they played against JDG, I think they looked a lot better. So that gives me hope, and that also makes me think they have momentum. Meanwhile, top esports is such an enigma right now, because they go into this series versus RNG. RNG doesn't look particularly good. Wei has been.
V5. Oh, you're on about the other match.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Okay,
the
yes,
upper
okay,
bracket
fair
final.
enough.
So
All right.
yeah, RNG and top versus top. Wei is terrible right now. He is. If you give him an early game jungler, he will literally just int into the other team. So I think first off, RNG has to make sure Wei is on a scaling jungler because he will actually just hurt his team by being on early game junglers for the most part. And then what's so insane to me is that Top managed to lose these games in really different ways, like really different ways. In game 2, Knight has 5 kills. He's like 5-0-3 at like 8 minutes into this game. And he ends the game at 31 minutes with 5 kills. He does nothing for the entirety of this game. He doesn't use his advantage, like his big advantage on Ryze, to play side lanes. He doesn't try and create picks in the side lanes by using Ryze ultimate to get there faster, to use that mobility. And instead, they kind of play this short range composition and low mobility composition into an RNG comp that is 100% absolutely able to deal with that in team fights. This is the dream game for Gwen. You're dealing with a low mobility AD carry on Aphelios. You're able to chew through the front line very effectively with Gwen ultimate and autos. And like, it is a great game to, I haven't liked Gwen a lot, but Gwen is really, really good in RNG's composition. And Top Esports doesn't even recognize that, doesn't try and play for picks. Instead, they try and play for these short range like fights, and they just get eaten alive. There's really no way for them to kill the Jinx. It's a total disaster. So they read the composition wrong and they're unable to create the picks because Knight's playstyle is mostly team fighting. Like, he's about flanking and positioning, not necessarily about playing the map.
If people were listening to the watch party we did yesterday for LCS, this is what I was referring to, where someone tried to clap back on Peter Dunn for a tweet on Twitter. Well, Peter Dunn's tweet was about exactly this topic, was about the idea that, like, essentially, after watching all of the Knight teams over the years, he thinks Knight just doesn't know how to play side lanes, essentially, or hasn't been coached into it or something. Because I agree, Monty. Like, if you look how strong this guy is and how mechanically good he is, like normally you'd have to fight the mid lane and not to want to fucking go in the side lane and just get more powerful and take over the game. Like, this guy just doesn't do it. Yeah,
with
exactly.
Realm
Do it. It's just weird.
But if you want to see the dichotomy of Knight, guys, the best 2 examples from this last week are Top's game 3 versus V5 in the best of 5 that happened last week, where he plays Akali, and you see how good he is at flanking, how good he is at team fighting, and how he absolutely wins that game on Akali. He's like VTO kind of in that way, right? He's playing not necessarily the most meta champions, but he's able to do so much from a solo perspective. And then the other dichotomy is game 2, when he's playing against RNG, and you're looking at these scenarios where oh, my stream went down. Sorry, guys. I was streaming this window. Hold on. Let me pull that back up so the windows aren't fucked up. You're dealing with these scenarios where he just won't use his lead to play into the side lanes to create picks. But that's not the only way that Top loses, which is what's so crazy about these games. Like, they lose on a Baron flip in one of the games later in the RNG series that was really just completely unnecessary. In the final game of the series, they dive into the base and try and end the game way too early when they can double back and try and play around the Baron. So there are a lot of Baron flips that Top has been doing as well, and V5 have been doing. It's been really sloppy League of Legends over in LPL. And even though there are some really impressive mechanical plays, and I don't know, perhaps this is because they're playing from home now, so it feels a little bit more scrimmy, but it's been kind of rough in these playoffs. And like, if you look at RNG, their early game typically hasn't been incredible overall. I mean, we talked about Wei, just he's had some clutch plays. I mean, certainly like some Baron steals or some really good like objective contests, especially in the final game, where he like comes in on the Lee Sin on the Elder Dragon and then immediately uses stopwatch in order to like bait out the Gnar ult and get them to all cluster by the side of the wall, where Gala just ults them on Aphelios and uses Blue Gun for immense AoE damage and like wins the game basically. So there have been good plays from Wei, but they're not in the early game. So it's RNG's been pretty weak overall early. Top Esports has been finding very creative ways to lose very won games. They, like I said, they should have won all 4 games in the series in the upper bracket. And then you look on the side of V5, and they're not very disciplined about how they take fights early, and PP God is kind of one-dimensional. So, like I said, whoever fixes these issues or whoever plays into their strengths, I think is going to win these playoffs. But it is
I even
really
can give you
difficult.
a good reason as to why I think all these teams have flaws. Because here's what's crazy about the LPL. The LPL doesn't, as far as I know, run on any kind of like salary cap. There's not even, as far as I know, soft salary cap. But you would think this was an American franchise sport. This is like the dream of the American franchise sports owner. Every org has a couple of amazing players, a couple of pretty good players, and a couple of bad players. As in, even the three teams we're talking about now, fans, if you haven't watched the LPL, they have like players where you're like, how is he on this team? Like, what the fuck? Like, he isn't even close to the best in his role. Every one of these teams has that. And that has also been a bizarre hallmark of the LPL. Because in the same way as in Korea, you get that weird opposite phenomenon where, like, a godlike player will just sit as the sub behind another good player, but not play actively, even though he could have a whole career on, like, the third best team. In the LPL, it goes the other way, and you just get people who are just on the team where it's like if you're rookie, it's like, do I ever get to have, like, a great support in my whole career? My whole career. I had Hachani, the fucking Bowlan, I can't even remember that fucking guy from like Southwind or whatever. I can't remember the way around it was. Like, mate, this guy just never gets it. Like, what the fuck? Can he never have a support his whole career? He plays in the league with Ming and Mako, like the greatest supports ever. He just never gets them on his team. So, like, all these teams are flawed as fuck, mate. Like, the RNG squad, I don't even know how this team's in the final. If you looked at that roster on paper at the beginning of the split, you'd be like, there's no way they're in the final. So, by the way, there's one thing I've got to say right now. As far as I'm concerned,
mega bad too.
mate, Zhao Hu is the perks of the LPL. Because here's the thing, he never looks like the god pure positional player, but he's so fucking good at winning games, mate. The guy just knows what to do in game situations.
Yeah, I mean,
stud.
RNG is really like, the way they win games is they scale. I mean, they kind of transcend their early game, and they draft compositions that are very difficult to beat in the late game. I mean, we saw that. I think their drafts have been good. To be fair to RNG, like, even though it was kind of debilitating early on, the fact that they had this Lulu and Aphelios in the final game did make it difficult for Top to close. And I don't want to make it seem like Top just threw that game, because there was more or less a timer on that game, I feel. And people are ignoring like the late game strength of RNG's composition and how difficult, like, Top felt desperate to end the game, which is why they dove the base. But they could have also, I think the better plan for them, given their strong turn and engage, was to play around a Baron and try and turn there instead of. They missed a lot of CC by diving into the base. So I don't think that was the best way to do it. But I do think that the idea was right, that they needed to force something and try and end in that game, because it was getting really precarious for them overall. But yeah, I mean, I think they play very effectively around their bot lane, like Gall and Ming. And as long as Wei is not completely feeding his face off in the early game, I think they do better. But Top, I think, was also smart. Like, they ban away the Viego, which I would definitely want if I was RNG. I think it's
screen went again. I'd just leave it off and tell them to fix the cameras.
Yeah. We can just fix that.
I told you this is actually what I was talking about yesterday, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. You'll learn. You'll learn. What's it to do with the Sith way? You'll all just learn the hard way.
It's because I'm looking at stats right now and I don't have the tab open. So yeah, I mean, I think when we look at this, playoffs, it's really, really difficult to predict as a result. And I actually don't. I think V5, if they play for an early game advantage in bot lane, will be able to win this playoffs. I think we saw them transition to that in their last best of 5 versus JDG, and so they give me the most hope that these flaws will be fixed immediately.
The thing for me is, like, essentially, V5 has to get the fuck out of Rookie's way and let him carry. If they do that, they can win the whole LPL. That's fine. I'd have V5 as the number 1 team to win. Number 2, I would actually take RNG because, like, as I said, like, they just managed to. They don't even look at the best team. They just win games. Like, I like teams that are like that. Like, they just know what they're doing. They know how to play around the weaknesses. Top is the one that is completely a coin flip to me. They could be absolute shit and come third, or they could win the whole thing just by Knight could be the MVP and pop off in all the fights. He could win the whole match. But for me, I think they're the variable one. Like, I can't rely on anything about Top basically. Like, I can't even tell you which players are going to play well, mate.
Look, I think that Rookie has also been pinched a lot in the champion pool, where if if the rest of V5 is more threatening, and especially the bot lane is more threatening, like they should have their pick. Like they can play Leona every game because Rookie is drawing 4 bans in some of these games. He's drawing
There's something else needs to be
ban,
said,
dude.
Maury. This is another problem I have with this as well, Monty, is he's had this same coach the whole time. This coach might be one of the worst drafting coaches to ever be, like a championship level coach I've ever seen. They used to be famous about the 2020 version of Top, that they used to even say themselves, like, yeah, I don't even know how we get these drafts. Like, we just win anyway. Like, they just won by mechanics in their brain. Like, so I've never understood the way they drafted for him personally, so I don't really know. Well, it also makes me wonder if he has a different philosophy for the game as well, and they're just on the same page.
I mean, listen to some of these bans, Thorin. Like when V5 is on blue side, Top is on red side, and Top is banning Ahri, Orianna, Syndra, Galio, or Ahri, Orianna, Galio, and LeBlanc. Like you can't absorb 4 red side bans and like not be able to figure out how to make your other lanes win.
Oh.
Like rookie is too good. It's crazy. I mean, he is the best Orianna player in the history of this game. And he was showing that in the first game you watched between V5 and Top Esports. You see why they have to ban Orianna. He is literally drawing pocket bans on when they're on blue side, which is like where all the power picks go anyway. Yeah. So, you know, it's only like Zeri that's being banned there. You saw when they weren't banning multiple mid laners that V5 was able to win the first couple of games. Even when he was drawing like 3 mid lane bans in the second game. And it was only after we see like all of these bans coming through for Rookie that you know, Top Esports is finally able to get a hold on these games. But I think it was also the way they were. I think Tom Kench and Jinx is not for you, V5. I think you play aggressively in the bot lane. I would love to see you know, some more misfortune. You know, even the Ezreal Leona was like okay. Anything with Leona for PP God. I hope PP God can play Karma. That would be great for them. So there are other lanes that I think can actually, you know, do things if they're drafted for properly, but I think they're figuring it out. They looked a lot better versus JDG.
By the way, people who are going to try and ride the narrative about Rich, like the faker of hearts, like he's being carried right now. Just calm down. Like he actually had a good split, but in the playoffs, he hasn't been fucking stomping anyone. Don't worry about that.
It hasn't been his job really though either. And yeah, I think he's been fine, but not.
Look what he plays. It makes sense. Like it's a sort of top lane you'd expect.
Yeah. Yeah. He hasn't. Fine. Yeah, he's fine.
It's all about Rookie. That's what's cool about these 3 teams, boys. For real, whoever wins, their mid laner probably was the best. That's what's actually so great. It's because it's so flawed. It's like let's just have the 3 go in the arena, and it will decide between Jamu, Rookie, and Knight who is the best. And hopefully, like luckily in the LPL, you're going to get the fights. You're never going to have those games where you're just not playing at all. So you're going to have your chances. Let's see who wins. It's right up in the air for me.
I've seen some really weird things that I think I've never seen in LoL before this week. Like the fact that EG won a best of 5 3-0 with only taking 1 dragon. Don't think we've ever seen a best of 5 B1 with only taking 1 dragon before. The RNG versus Top match. I don't think I've ever seen a team win 3-1 while theoretically losing all 4 games. That is also wild. Because even when that happens, usually it's like a 3-2. The fact that it was a 3-1 is really weird. Yeah, it's been an interesting playoff run around the world. But this is all to say too, is like I can't tell if this is all like players playing like scrims because they're online, and if this would be a significantly better match if they were in person, or it'd be a significantly tighter match. But in their current form, all of these teams would get wrecked by T1. There's no way I think that in this current form that the LPL teams would be able to compete with the current iteration of T1. Which I think is I think even Dom said that as well, who's seen like all the games from
the problem teams. I have is the players I need to be really good for the LPL if I want to destroy T1, in my opinion, is I want top and jungle to be amazing. And unfortunately, that isn't these teams that we're looking at right now. Like, bizarrely, again, like the great top laners aren't on these bloody teams, boys. I mean, Bin's pretty good, or was in the past. Like, but if you look at all the best, like that's the thing. The talent again got spread out in the offseason, and people. It's all about mid laners right now. So here's the thing: these teams, some of them could have an advantage in mid lane, but that wouldn't be enough to beat the whole machine of T1, obviously. What about this then? Do you want to talk about LEC?
Let's talk about LEC.
So in LEC, basically, it's just the rumours. So the good news is this. It does actually seem for real. It wasn't just last year with the Abadar Gator 100 Thieves. It looks like, actually, between the two splits is going to become a mini off-season. And that teams actually are going to make these moves because I think the same pattern's going to play out. Here's my prediction, Monty. What happened this year with Jizuke, Jensen, Niski, fucking Mickey X, like all these players who are all obviously LEC/LCS capable players. In fact, if they're on your team, they're probably going to be your better player, if not your star player. What will happen is the same thing will happen every year, in my opinion. These players won't get the offers they want from the bad teams. They will wait, and then one or two of them each time will be gambled on as the sort of like break in case of emergency if you want to go to Worlds. That's the analogy, you know. So if you are Mad Lions, of course you're going to go ham to try and get Niski if he's available. These sorts of players. Of course, if you're Vitality and you've just had that split, I'd be looking to get El Yoya from Mad Lions if he's available, mate. It'd be an obvious move to make. Similarly, I'm sure Humanoid is already asking for the El Yoya fucking train to come to his station again, as he had in the past with Mad Lions. So the major moves basically seem to surround. It's Fnatic might kick Razork, maybe they get El Yoya, or does El Yoya does Perks fucking fire up the bubble bath and get the hot tub going and he joins Vitality? By the way, interesting hypothetical right there. Who do you go with if you want to win with? Do you go with Perks? Do you go with Humanoid? That's a tough one, actually, I think, after the way these playoffs went. Then you've got the whole story, which is if all these people potentially can go to a Vitality, it's what happens to Razork from Fnatic? What happens to Selfmade from Vitality? Like, the actual implications of even one of these moves will be there'll be 2 or 3 moves across the league. And these are moves where, like I characterize them, these are gambles to go to Worlds. These aren't just like get a tiny bit better. Like, this is the gamble where it's like maybe, and in fact, especially after the way these playoffs went. Here's the other good news, by the way. If you saw the way these playoffs went and you're every team that isn't G2, you're like, dude, we're all right there. Like, let's make the fucking move. Let's go for everything. So I think this is actually a pretty interesting set of potential moves because I could see some of these moves actually making these teams a potential contender, you know. Like the Mad one to me immediately makes that team interesting in a way it wasn't so interesting before.
I also think that, well, it depends on whether, I mean, there's so many factors, right? If El Yoya stays with Mad Lions and Niski joins Mad Lions, I think that's really interesting because I think Niski actually does very well with kind of following his junglers, and he's always been more of a supportive mid laner. And then I think it'll come down to, you know, whether Armit is going to have like broaden his champion pool and be more of the carry that he was previously. But I think it fixes a lot of the kind of mid jungle synergy problems. Reeker was just not good, guys. He's just not good. A lot of people were trying to defend him, but he's not.
And
he
was just clearly not humanoid. So even if he'd been like better than he was, like, it wouldn't have mattered in this case, you know.
Yeah, and I think there are other questions too, such as, you know, Excel is. Vitality has a lot of money, guys. I mean, that should be clear from anybody who's been paying attention to their transfers, which means that, you know, there are these certain possibilities, such as there could be a shuffle, for example, if El Yoya goes to Fnatic, then there's the possibility that Razork goes to Vitality, and maybe they buy out Mickey X as well. They could certainly do that. I think Excel would sell Mickey X under the right circumstances.
Right money, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, for the right money. If Vitality is very serious about fixing some of these issues, because I think that early game planning and early game jungle synergy and support jungle synergy have been their biggest issues. Now, maybe you don't replace both the support and the jungler. No, I would. I
think that would be amazing if you did that. If you make that move tomorrow, that's a potential LEC champion right there.
Yeah, I would do that for sure. You know, again, it depends on how much these teams want to spend. It's possible that Mad Lions, because that's been their history, they try and, you know, take another crack at an up-and-coming mid laner, and then they decide to sell El Yoya, and then if maybe there's a world where El Yoya and Kaiser like go somewhere together. That's a possibility too.
Or maybe they get Razork the other way if El Yoya goes to Fnatic and they work with Razork in Mad Lions. Could be that world too, right?
I don't think Perks goes to Fnatic because I don't think Vitality is going to be willing to sell them. I think they have enough money that they'll want to take a crack at fixing this roster.
I meant if El Yoya goes to Fnatic.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't they just take Razork in return and work with him? He's a good player still. You could do something with him, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious to see what exactly Mad Lions does because they still have some good pieces.
The biggest one is this, because the other move I didn't mention, and think how rare this ever happens, Monty. Dude, the fucking league MVP is potentially available. So the rumor is Vethio he can stay with Misfits, or he can go to XL or Mad Lions, is the rumor. Again, if they get Mad Lions, if Mad Lions takes Vethio and they could somehow make him work, if they can keep El Yori and like, you know what I mean? That's why, unfortunately for Mad Lions, their problem is this. They don't get to know what their board is until they know what the other people's moves are, unfortunately. So they can make an amazing team themselves, but theirs requires them keeping Kaiser and El Yoya. If either of those go, they start to lose the pieces that made this an awesome destination.
I mean, I think we'd have to seriously question Misfits if they let VTO go to XL or Mad Lions. Are we real? Like, I would have put all those teams in kind of the same tier of money and like budget. So if Misfits,
I even think it's an actual org. Misfits might have more if you think of the esports.
Yeah,
that's yes, you know.
That's why that would be a little bit weird to me that they would let him go. But maybe they would for the right sum of money. But also at the same time, it kind of defies the MO, particularly of Mad Lions, to go out and spend big on a buyout and a free agent. Because otherwise, then you just have to ask the question, well, if they were going to do that, why didn't they just fucking keep Humanoid? Like, you know, they literally won back-to-back titles. If they had that money and they wanted to spend that money.
Hey, I don't claim to know their org. Like, I only know them a little bit from CSGO. But I will say, one, in CSGO, they were terrible at keeping free agents. Like, essentially, they even in their contracts had, like, super low buyouts, so everyone just bought all their good players. That's why they don't have a relevant CSGO team. And then, as far as I can tell, even though I agree with you, they haven't been the team that, like, buy people. I also get the sense, Monty, and this is fucked up, but I'm going to say it. I get the sense they're actually one of those orgs that's dumb enough. They buy their own hype about how they care about the players. And if the player's like, but I really want to go and play for they're like, oh, well, sorry, I'll just make that happen for you. Like, I think there's people in sports that are dumb enough to do that, Monty. Like, I wouldn't personally. I would be like, yeah, you know how I, like, brought you up and raised you, made the whole team? Like, yeah, you stay near me. Like, you can go for the off-season, it's free. Yeah, I can't stop you, can I, homie? But while you're still going to sign that contract, I'm more in the Carlos camp, mate. I own your soul. That's all you need to know. See that clock on? You start putting little fucking things on a wall like you're a prisoner, mate. That's how you can escape my team. Then the other one is this to me, because I'm with you, is the other reason of all those destinations for the Vethio one, the problem is as well, the XL one makes no sense to me whatsoever. One, Youngbok clearly likes Nuke Dog. He's very happy with Nuke Dog. Two, Nuke Dog isn't a problem in that team. Sure, if you want to be the champion, you might want a better mid laner, but he's just totally fine in terms of, he does his job completely. Even if people don't know, but has a very wide champion pool. Actually, I think he's a pretty competent player. But thirdly, are you going to spend megabucks just to do that swap? That doesn't feel like the swap that, like, does everything for XL, does it? So I don't think that happens.
Also, I think it's counterintuitive to XL's play style because, like, they, you know, Nuke Duck is the Swiss Army knife player where he's going to bend himself to fit, like, especially as a coach. Like, it's very clear that, like, the XL coaches like to have that versatility. And so why would you like force this guy who is going to play in a very specific way, at least at the present time? Maybe they are convinced that VTO on a long enough timeline can be coached into greater versatility or team play than he has right now, which is, you know, totally fair if behind the scenes he seems willing to do that. He's obviously very mechanically skilled. And he had to play a certain style in order to make Misfits win games. Like, that's just objectively true. So maybe if he didn't feel like he was the only carry, then he would be able to do other things on other rosters. So that's a possibility. But it just seems like XL likes Nuke Duck for a lot of reasons and maybe doesn't want to completely revolutionize their team style to fit a very, at the current time, specific player, and a player who, frankly, is going to be a project if you want to turn him into a more versatile player.
Thing is, though, the reason why I brought up that earlier one about if El Yoya, who seems to be the hot property, is the jungle player here, right? If he has the choice, perks, he can go and play Vitality, or he can go to Fnatic and play with Humanoid. Obviously, other good pieces that could be involved. The reason why that's really interesting to me is this, because before the playoffs, everyone would go hands down, you take Humanoid, they've worked together, they were champions together. Like, mate, after the way Humanoid played in that playoffs, like, I'd sort of be a bit fucking like, ooh, I think I'll let you take a turn on that, because, mate, he fucking tanked that playoffs. I find it amazing, mate, how if you're charismatic and people like you, they'll forgive anything in this fucking world. It's the human condition. It's not even just about esports, but, like, mate, it's mental that, like, people don't even bat an eyelid that he entered the way 2 series. They're just cool with that. Like, what I don't get is your narrative is you're the greatest winner. You're the clutch player. You did the opposite. Can anyone remember, by the way, off the top of their head, a series where like fucking Faker, Expecke, Rookie just in the whole series? It never happened. It never happened in the history of the game, ever. I've genuinely, Monty, never seen someone I'm told is the region's best player just not turn up like that and everyone else just go, oh, but it's not Thorin's players that he likes, so fuck him. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, Larson had one bad game. Get him out the league. Like, give me a break. Like, this is mental. Because that's the problem. I expect, based on their relationship, you would want to instantly team up with Humanoid again. Also, in theory, Fnatic's the better org of the two to join, obviously, historically in League. But you also look at it. I think your point's a very valid one. I would imagine Vitality has more money to chuck around, mate. Especially when they've just paid all that fucking off-season money. Like, as far as I can tell, Fnatic did their big move in the off-season, you know.
I think too.
I'll also say as well, even though, like, I do think personally the Razork thing, I don't think they were going to fix that myself. It is a bit of a fucking bold move as a coach as well, though, to be given like a super teams with the players and go, yeah, actually that won't work after one split. Like, what? Like, dude, no one else got that in history. Everyone else had to just do the whole year and fucking run it back. Like, that's pretty bold to change your roster, you know? Because I would want the opposite. I would want to be like, guys, we actually were the best, so let's just run it back again. You know, we'll figure it out next time. We got all the weeks of the split, and we'll be sound as. That's what I would want sort of the mentality of Fnatic to be.
Yeah, there's something wrong when they're really prioritizing Humanoid's Twisted Fate so heavily. And it's not just that. He was playing way too aggressively in the lane. He was he was setting his team behind by randomly dying to jungle ganks early on that he should know are coming.
Looked like he was trolling at times, dude. Like, as he got like more fucking egregious with the ints as the game went on, not less, like as you'd expect, you know.
But it felt like it was just a doomed uphill battle from like the first 5 minutes of the game because of the way he was.
Battle.
Yeah, uphill. I mean, there were a lot of problems.
Listen, there was two of them. I know it was like they were getting torn apart by horses, like in the old Colosseum.
So I mean, there were several things. Like Humanoid did not start this. People forget this too. Humanoid did not start this split well. They want to remember the end of the split when he was doing super well.
This is why I was melding about the whole LEC because mate, he was phoning it in, and that's also why it's so brutal, Monty. That was even the excuse all the fans gave. They go, it doesn't matter if he phones it in, he wins splits, doesn't he? He phoned it in and then fucking ended the playoffs. What are you talking about? What moment was I supposed to be impressed? He had like what, a couple of weeks in like I'm going to say like the second rotation. Like okay, great. I mean, okay,
it's true. And it is a correct narrative around Mad Lions.
Yeah, at the time it was.
They were intentionally like lowering their practice. Yes. They were not doing as well. They ramped it up.
Yeah, so consciously they were. Players. Yes, it wasn't even just trolling.
Yeah, so it just seemed like Humanoid was doing that, except this time it didn't work out that way. And I'm sure that the Twisted Fate, you would think it would do very well in their hands. I'm sure it was probably doing very well in their scrims that they were playing. But, you know, if it's continuously not working and you're not seeing those results and you're playing overly aggressively and you don't have the coverage that you need to play that aggressively in mid lane in the early game and you start kind of running it down and then your team tilts and you just keep running it down. And, you know, there's also the fact that Hylissang played much worse in the playoffs than he did towards the end of the regular season. So it seemed like kind of a total collapse from Fnatic, and you know, two of their best performing players in their mid lane and their support, who were doing great at the end of the split, decided that they were not going to play well in playoffs. And for both of them to do that at the same time, I think was the doom. So,
and your most influential players on the team, like the ones who were supposed to be the MVPs, yeah.
I think you do run it back because I think that scenario is unlikely to reproduce itself. And I think you actually have some time during this offseason to fix some of these core issues. The roster is still good. I even
think the way they lost, dude, is like a perfect teaching moment. Like now, Monty, they can't say we're going to phone it in, can they? Because they've just seen how the playoffs went. That's the perfect thing to keep bringing their mind back to. This is why we've got to be disciplined. This is why we've got to be good in week 2. This is why we've got to have like a consistent level and not be fucking messing around in script. This is the perfect time to take that double down and then win the split and go to Worlds. And by the way, if they ever get it together, be a mega team. Look how fucking good this roster is on paper. They've got banging players. By the way, I don't know if you saw as well, this is totally off the side. It's not at all related actually to esports, but there was that mad thing came out about fucking Hua Feng's girlfriend. Did you see this? Where like
dude, I took one look at that and decided it was too stupid.
The thing is, the story actually was way overhyped because they said that apparently he was trying to like poison a player called Fen, who some people might know. What's the big deal? Selfmade's tried to poison every team he's been. Oh shit, they meant literally. My bad, dude. I meant metaphorically on that floss. Whatever, just another. He can catch as many strays as he wants. Do something fucking good in the game if you don't want to catch strays.
Did you pay attention to any of that Juan Feng stuff? I looked at it for like 1 second and I was like, I I can't deal with this much.
It did look wild.
Drama.
Yeah, but here's the problem. As soon as I realize it doesn't actually connect to the game, like it's not like, oh, like these are two active teammates and they've got to play together. Like as soon as I realize it's just stupid drama, it's like, who gives a fuck? Just a shit days of their life, and it's just fucking move on.
It's also just one of those things where because it's all been translated, like I can't understand it directly, and like I feel like I'm always missing pieces, or I'm having to make assumptions based on these like super partial stories, and if it's not actually related to the gameplay, like you said, it's very hard for me to care about. Good luck sorting that out, I guess. Maybe Huanfeng is done. Whatever. He was, I mean, I as a player, I don't particularly care about him either. So,
yeah, listen, as a career, he has fucking nailed that Icarus archetype. So good in the first early period. He flew too close to the sun of fangirls and fucking poisoning. I don't know. I think it's Game of Thrones. Why am I going Greek? This guy's just out with Game of Thrones. He's just a character, sort of like a fucking Littlefinger character. Many of the fuck. I don't know.
So yeah, that was some interesting drama. Before we get Raz on, I think we also have to touch on an LCS topic that he will not be able to comment on, which is the hype video with Tyler1.
I'd almost deleted this from my brain, but yeah, I just remembered it now, sadly.
That just dropped. I'm going to cede the floor to you for the obvious rant.
Here's the first thing that needs to be said, right? Is I'm obviously someone who is, in theory, a massive proponent of exactly this type of content. It's actually what I've been asking for years. I even made a video on my YouTube channel, like, I'm going to say, 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was season 9, maybe. It was one of the times when, like, Doublelift and Bjergsen were facing each other in the finals. I said you should have intros that set it up and set up the hype and the gravitas and make it epic. So they basically made a trailer like that, and they're trying to have it. In my opinion, I don't even think they've got an esports now. I think they're trying to do it like they've done in a lot of American sports franchises for like NFL and NBA, where you have like a actor do a fucking like cool little like teaser sort of for the playoffs, right? And give a bunch of like, essentially they're sort of like movie lines. Now, they didn't actually do as good a job here, but they had Tyler1, the obviously infamous streamer, do one of those, right? Now, here's why this sucks, right? First of all, why is Tyler1 in it? No one else asked this question, Monty. Everyone else, it's awesome, it's cool. Because here's the thing. Is Tyler1 famous for like pumping people up and inspiring people? Nah, not really. Is Tyler1 doing it in Tyler1 style with his quotes and his catchphrases? And no, he's not doing any of that. Is it some sort of meta contextual thing about how him raging at the game and the passion he has for the game translates to how... No. It's just him, could be replaced by any other human to read the words, doing this, and you're supposed to just sort of go... Oh, that's Tyler1. That's about it. That's like even the things he says, Monty. Like it's not even in the way he like on stream. He is quite funny when he's over the top and he's doing there's none of that in this. So to me, it was just a very generic trailer with Tyler1, and I don't really get why. Like I told you I didn't look at the Reddit thread, but I've looked at it now. Like I can't believe the response is so positive. Because here's the stupid thing: I could redo this whole trailer, make it awesome. Like I would have it like that. I'd have him be like playing the fucking game and raging on stream and be like, the passion that League inspires, and you want that one last game, you want to win it, you could do a whole cool thing on it. You could make it a really unique approach. So I actually thought it was a wasted chance, mate. I also think, and I'll say this is the final thing, I hate when you do those trailers and it's all just generic, like not a single storyline, not even fucking one. I can't get one storyline in the whole thing. Like you even show fucking Cloud9 players, they're not even going to be there. You show me Fudge, he ain't going to be there. He ain't gonna be there, boys. So I thought it was a bit underwhelming. Mate.
Here's the other thing, Thorin, is that they filmed they filmed this in advance with all of the teams, and people will say, well, they had to do this in advance. No, they didn't. They had to do it slightly in advance, right? But here's the thing, guys. I can tell you because I've done this. Go watch the Flashpoint 1 intro. And we already had it storyboarded and the player arc completed before they even set foot in a studio. And we did it in under a week from the actual shooting of the players in person to the final video, because we had a plan about how it was going to be.
For the one that I didn't work on, Flashpoint 3, I remember for the intro you did for that, you even had to like change a bloody player because Device changed teams.
Device changed teams right before the tournament. So we had to change the storyboard. So like, I've done this, guys. You can make the changes. That's like a crazy excuse. And you could at least set up theoretical narratives because there's a finite number of teams, right? So what you do is if you have a well-planned shoot, you can get narratives from the different teams.
You could have some amazing ones for these ones, yeah.
You could use.
Yes.
Like, you could be like, you could use it. Like, what happens? Here's some ones, for example. Let's get a shot of Bjergsen and Jojo Pian looking at each other, because it could be new guard versus old guard. Like, there's an idea for you. You just have to plan that shoot and get it done, and plan the scheduling of that shoot around all of that. So you absolutely can tell stories, even if you don't know what those stories are, as long as you think about it in advance. Okay, as long as you plan the shoot properly. Now, on the Tyler1 side, here's the other thing you didn't mention, Thorin, is that it's not even about the finals. It's about the crowd, which is such a
weird as well. There's another thing, actually, Monty. Here's also what tilted me. The things he was saying also mean nothing, because they have no gravitas. Because what does Tyler1 know about a crowd bringing the best out of the best? He's never competed, you fucking idiots. Like, he isn't a pro player. What's weird about that is to me, he has no connection to the esports side of the game. But you picked him as though, like, dude, the things he's saying would be appropriate on an NFL thing if it was like Jerry Rice saying that, like, you know, and the crowd brings out the greatest out of the player, and, you know, and you've got to perform and be on your best, and you can't let your team. Why does Tyler1 saying that mean anything? Like, that's what I mean. This is like, by the way, everything I hate about Riot, because the joke is I could make a better skit, which is just how they came up with this skit. So it's obviously the fucking big industrialist, Mr. fucking Riot guy with the big cigar. Who are these fucking kids into? Who's my Miss Moneypenny? Who the fuck is my nephew watching Tyler1? Get me Tyler1. It's like one of these. Like, what are you doing? You're a fucking boomer. Like, and what are the themes here? Well, we've got the crowd back. That's right. Yes, the crowd. It's all about the crowd. I'm the man of the people. Like this is like some fucking Brendan Circus shit. What are you doing?
The problem is like, I think what happened here is that there's two different departments within Riot who do these things, and I do not know why they are two separate entities. So they have like this marketing department, and then they have the esports department. And sometimes the marketing department makes these things on their own budgets that is independent of the esports department. And because they have money to pay Tyler1 as an influencer, but it's like he has his own, like, whatever, hilarious, like, kind of amateur semi-pro tournament that he runs, right? But for the most part,
to use if you have the right setting, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's completely divorced from the esports part of things, and you're not telling any narratives with this promo. And yes, I realize Tyler1 is going to be there, but if you are LCS and you think the best way to promote your league is with a guy who is at best loosely affiliated, you've lost the fucking plot. Your league is, if you think that the best way to get viewers to your league is to leverage Tyler1, your viewership is toast already.
You know, I would have used Monty. I would have the same type of setup. I would have just used Dom. He was a pro player. He didn't manage to win the LCS, but he was in like big semis stuff. He's been at those things with the crowd. He's also one of your most popular core streamers, and he understands all the shit about the esports side. Like, he would actually nail this role, mate. He's better than Tyler1 for that. Well, I obviously understand. I'm saying that hypothetically. Obviously, Riot would never use Dom in a fucking commercial. I'm aware of that. I mean, hypothetically, here, fans.
But it's also, you could use your own talent. Like, Captain Flowers could have done just as good of a job delivering those almost exactly the same lines without some, like, Tyler1 specific quotes, like, built different, right? But in essence, the message could have been delivered, even though the message was about crowds and
Tyler1 quote. Does he say that about himself, that he's built different or something?
Yes.
I don't know if that's a catchphrase or what. Fair enough. Okay.
So, like, you could have just used Captain Flowers for this, and I feel like it would have at least had some semblance of LCS.
I've even realized how bad it is, because, like, that line that they just said there, if that's a quote of his built different, why did they throw it away on nothing? Like, here's what you would have done. If you, as we're saying, if you actually properly schedule this so you know who the teams are, you would do something like this, Monty. Like, Team Liquid was always known for playing through the bot and mid lane, but this time they're built different or whatever. And you'd do some you'd actually tie it into the analysis, wouldn't you, and give some sort of hype. Like, what I don't get is this. Fans are going to do this, Monty. This is why I can't stand fans. They're going to go, what's the big deal? Because A, it is an opportunity missed, and B, if you knew how much fucking money they paid Tyler1 and spent on this, you'd know that it is a big deal. Like, this could be, by the way, better than any OGN intro if you actually paid the budget that they have right now. Like, you don't know, they would all your favorite OGN intros, they were made on pennies. They were made on a shoestring budget, mate. You could have done something as cool as that for this. Now, yeah, it wouldn't be as cool in the sense it doesn't have like the Korean players, but the storylines here, like, let's not pretend there are no fucking players here. Like, for me, there's so many cool angles you can have with the fact that EG's trying all these American players. 100 Thieves was supposed to be the flash in the pan that was a fluke, but they might win again. Team Liquid has like Bjergsen maybe in his worst performance, but he's in another super team. Like, there's some fucking amazing narratives you could bring for this. Not, you won't find any of them in that video, so I also don't know what the point is. Because here's the other thing. Surely at the most base level, the dream of this video, Monty, is that I like League of Legends. I don't know the LCS Finals is going on. I see this video and I tune in. Why would I tune in? You haven't given me a single reason. In fact, the joke is, I might even tune in going, oh, it's Cloud9 playing. Oh, fuck that.
No. The single reason is Tyler1. This is the point. This is literally, you can infer from this video the thought process that goes in, which is, it is better use of our money to pay Tyler1 $50,000 to $100,000, which is probably the range that it costs to have him do this video and appear at the finals. If I had to guess, somewhere in that range
from streaming, yeah,
with how much he loses from streaming, probably somewhere in that range. Because that is the best chance of getting viewers. You asked yourself, how do we advertise this? Is the best chance to pay Tyler1 a bunch of money? Or is it to tell the storylines of the league? Is it to use our own talent to do this promotional video? And they decided that Tyler1 is the best marketing strategy, which means that they are alone in an ocean right now where they do not know how to actually get viewership. That's where we're at. And it's depressing because there's some really good stories. There's some really good stories.
They have no idea what they're doing here. They have no idea at all.
So we'll see. Because, I'm willing to forgive this if we get a really good 10-year history of the LCS at the finals. If they pull off what LCK pulled off, which was fucking amazing at their finals, bringing back all those old players, really leaning into the history, entirely leaning into the history. If they do that at the LCS finals, all is forgiven, right? This was just something to get Tyler1's fans hyped and aware and involved and hopefully watch the finals. That is legit. Now, considering Tyler1 is also going to be at the finals, I somehow doubt that is going to be the case, but we'll see.
Also, at least actually make fucking interesting tie-ins to what happened in the split. Like, you can have all cool angles, like Cloud9 was supposed to revolutionize the LCS until they had a systems failure. Then you have them move out. Then it's like TSM was supposed to be a fucking beat until, whatever. But now their last chance to win just fled to China. You obviously wouldn't put that in a Riot. Well, that'd be in my version, obviously. But you could tie all these fucking 6 storylines. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. So I hope they do something. I hope they do something for the actual LCS finals. I think there are some really cool kind of new guard stories coming out of EG. I think you have like the TL super team not living up to expectations, the defending champions back in the finals.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's also one of the most uncertain finals weekends I can think of. Who the fuck knows who'll win?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no obvious favourite.
There isn't.
By the way, obviously I very rarely ever do this, Monty, but sadly when you were talking, I actually glanced at our Twitch chat, and you won't believe this, mate. Our Twitch chat thinks that was straight fire, and we don't know what we're talking about, which doesn't prove anything, by the way, about our fan base. Because here's the way fans work, by the way. You know when the VOD has 100,000 views? Yeah, the 10 people talking Twitch chat, we don't give a fuck what you think, mate. I'll take the 100,000 other people. The ones who didn't comment, they're my favourite viewers. You in the Twitch chat, you just have access to Twitch and fingers. I can't even confirm you have eyes or a brain, but you have fingers and Twitch chat, that's it. If it were me, by the way, you know what I'd do. It'd be silent. I'd have no fucking Twitch chat, but it isn't mine. It's all right. It's all right. I've had my little look. I've looked away now, and now we can go on in our lives.
So that was me malding, just because honestly, I think Riot Korea did such a good job with the LCK finals this year. It was just so perfect that it's just really, 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 really annoying to see this kind of content crop up, because again, it's a Band-Aid solution. And this is what Riot seems to love these days, is they've Band-Aid solutioned Valorant by having all of these co-streamers that are like 70% of their esports viewership is just co-streamers these days. And if you look at this, now you're just getting unaffiliated league celebrities into your esports space, because every time you do this, you lose another opportunity to hook people into the things that are actually durable about your league. Tyler1 isn't going to be here for every fucking LCS final. I mean, nothing against him. out, but I hope he's not, because he's not part of the fabric of the LCS or the history of the esport, which is what I really care about.
Would it be way more appropriate if this video was about like Bjergsen's last chance at a title or something? That would be a cool way to hook it into history. Anyway, since obviously there is those games going on in the playoffs this weekend, Monty, let's do a bet on that, and then we'll bring Raz on to talk about the LCS in a totally this section is sponsored by Esports Bet. When Raz comes on, that's a separate section.
That is not sponsored.
Here's an affidavit from my lawyer saying as much. So,
all right. We don't have the live odds up yet, obviously, but best of 5 series win is pretty heavily in TL's favor this time around.
Understandably,
it is understandable. I think even though it went to 5 games, obviously EG was kind of struggling by game 5. It got them into a place where they were picking like the Nidalee Renekton, which was insane.
The obvious question, Monty, after I've watched them play TL in a 5-game series and beat C9 in a 3-game series, I still don't know if EG's actually good at League of Legends. I just know they're good at draft. That's it. I actually, like, the joke is in that series against C9, they kept almost like throwing the game at the end, didn't they? Like every game, like it's like they actually had to play the game. It's why I was joking. It really is like the LS dream. That's the LS team, boys. Like they're just winning without fucking playing the game because of scaling. It's amazing.
Honestly, like, I think drafting is incredibly important right now, because a lot of teams just draft themselves into a hole where they have no way to kill the enemy carries. That's like a very common theme that's going on these days. So you can I think draft is really, 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 really important. But overall, you also have to look at the way that EG won this series, which is that they did get a lot of kind of like cheeky early game, or won the games in their last series, I should say, which is that they got a lot of cheeky early game, like level 1 advantages,
for sure, yeah.
Due to some creative pathing and fighting in the early game.
They had all the luck in the world, yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you also have to look at how Team Liquid lost to 100 Thieves, and 100 Thieves, I don't know what was going on in the TL draft, because a lot of times they were like drafting for Bwipo's lane, but they didn't have the most comprehensible like team compositions. So it really felt like they were trying to translate lane advantages without thoroughly thinking about how these team fights or kind of late game scenarios would play out. So if they do that versus EG, I think EG does have better drafting right now, and I think they've been powering up through the playoffs, and that I think they've looked good. I think if Bwipo doesn't want to kind of play stock standard top laners, that Team Liquid is going to have some issues. So you know what? At 2.7, I'm gonna take EG. Like,
it's not terrible. That's pretty. Those are
the odds are good.
Yeah, yeah.
The odds are good. And I think EG will have a good plan about how to come into these finals, because they looked very prepared the last time they had a long time to prepare on Team Liquid. And I think Team Liquid's priorities are just so wacky these days that I'm not sold. I'm not sold on them at all.
The problem Team Liquid has basically goes like this. Bwipo has just been a little bit questionable in some of the playoffs so far. Bjergsen's just been very bang average. He hasn't been impressive. He had like 1 or 2 pop-offs total in the whole playoffs. And then Hansama, as you'd expect, he's a consistent player, but that's also Hansama's whole career. It's always like, he's doing all right in the bot lane. It's like, listen, mate, he's not Uzi Eye. You're not just going to fucking 1v9 the game, are we? So the problem they have right now is, the reason why the door is open for this to be really interesting is the EG drafting can make it potentially uncomfortable enough that actually the superstars of Team Liquid at the moment, they're not necessarily just going to smurf and take over the whole game. And indeed, by the way, Cloud9 would have thought they could say the same thing. You don't think they thought Summit and Berserker would monster fucking EG in a series? You look at that and you go, surely they're going to have 1 game each at least where they carry, never happened. So that's why I'm really interested to see if TL has an answer to the draft philosophy, because if EG can actually put them in some of these spots, TL hasn't looked as monstrous as it did on paper. I know on paper that does look like an insane roster. It hasn't been as crazy in the actual games I've watched though, so I'm very interested. I would still expect TL to win. I would imagine it's obviously going to be TL 100 Thieves in the final, but even just the fact that EG's got like its own unique win condition, I think makes this a cool match.
The difference here is, like, I don't think that this gap of 1.4 to 2.7 is as big as it is. Like, I think that it's probably like 50 or 60% TL favored. So I agree. I think TL's going to win, but that's that 2.7 on EG is kind of juicy. So we'll go with that. Indeed. Anyway, thanks to Esports Bet. We are going to take a quick break, guys. And when we come back, we'll be here with Raz.
We're back, and it's the segment with a guest. The guest is Raz. He's been on some of the Insight many times before. Once upon a time, he was a caster in the LPL. Wasn't even that many years ago, actually. It was only a couple of years ago. Then, obviously, if you go back far enough, he was also coaching. He coached the Dignitas team once upon a time over in Europe, right? I think it was the European one you coached, right?
It was Europe, and then, of course, moved on to the LCS team for North America.
Yes, and obviously you will see Raz if you on the LCS. He's the guy who's not a plushie. If that narrows it down, there's a mixture of. I've noticed now it seems like there's an ever expanding amount of plushies relative to how many humans appear on stage. No, it's just like an unlimited amount. It's like fucking.
It's like tribbles. They're just like.
It's like gremlins or something. Exactly.
They keep multiplying. The last time I was on desk, Dash had the biggest fucking like Tibbers plush. I was like, all right, guys.
Okay.
So I also wanted to congratulate you, Raz, for winning the analyst Hunger Games on LCS. They've really like the battle royale has gone down. You guys had like 10 of you last year, but now you successfully beat out Mark Z for like the starting spot with Emily.
Oh my god! Hey, he's casting. All right, I'm the one just on the desk.
Okay.
All right.
You got rid of all those other people who were there last year, so it's just you. So congratulations.
They underestimate me because of my scrawniness. That's what it is.
They just don't know. Here's the thing. I bet they all say the same thing, buddy. I bet they're like, "Oh, I love that Raz guy. He's such a great guy to get along with." They don't know he's the real power broker behind the scenes, pulling all the strings,
Wait a minute.
setting up relationships. Yeah, exactly. I know.
People will actually believe that. That's gonna
No,
be a problem.
that's a joke, of course. That's Freak who does all of that.
So anyway, yes, congratulations. We're going to talk about the LCS playoffs a little bit here. We're going to start with C9 and their tragic collapse.
Let's just start here, Raz. Can you even, dude? Can you actually believe that Cloud9 isn't even in the LCS playoffs? There's still 2 matches to go. They're not even in the running. They're not even going to be at that fight. I still can't wrap my head around it. Like I always can't believe that match yesterday happened, man. That was so insane. What a way to go out of the playoffs. Just gone. If people didn't watch the games were all over like 10 minutes in. It was mental. You were like, holy shit, this is supposed to be like a super team. What the fuck?
Like literally for me, I predicted 3-1 Cloud9. The send-off for me to the casters was that like I don't think like they have adapted. Summit has learned like they cannot replicate what 100 Thieves did to them because like Golden Guardian series sure was a worse team, but like the way they changed their strategy was going to be significant, and the way he got destroyed was like the most obvious clear thing. Game 1, instantly 3 to 5 deaths. Yes,
I was like a motherfucker. Yeah.
I see the Jace pick into like Nocturne, Rise, and Ornn. And I was like, okay, guys, we learned nothing.
Oh, yeah. If people don't know, he was down like 0-5 in lane as Jace into Ornn. Like, this is the worst thing about this guy. He's even supposed to be the one who boxed the trend of the NA Jace because he's like an elite Korean top laner coming over, smurfing on everyone. But no, the fucking NA Jace gets its fucking sick revenge in the end.
What are you supposed to do? Like, the whole thing about this is like they late pick Jace in the draft intentionally.
Yes.
Like they opted into the Ornn Nocturne experience, and it's like, how the fuck are you gonna do anything with Jace? Like you try and you can't see anybody to poke because Nocturne turns out the lights, and then he's just sitting on your face with Stride Breaker, and then you get hit by an Ornn ult and then you die.
It's literally the worst combination of ideas because we talked about what he was going up against. It's also he's on weak side because they're playing towards Caitlyn Lux and Lee Sin is pathing towards him. So literally 4 to 5 times, every time the wave is pushing away from him, he's like, I'm fucking dead. Like clearly. First time he escaped the gank. The second time I'm pretty sure he's like trying to clear out a ward or something. It just keeps happening.
Hold up. Part of this is like you say he escaped the gank. Okay. It was a level 3 Nocturne gank where Nocturne cleared bottom side jungle, cleared all 3 cans, and then walked all the way at the top side, and then tried to do a level 3 Nocturne gank. So like, I'm pretty sure I could escape that gank.
Yes. Okay.
Like phoning in. Like, if like people criticize him for not ganking enough, he's like, "Oh, you want early game ganks? Do you want bloody? There you go." Then it's like, well,
Raz is that guy. Like
you know that meme where the guy comes comes in and he goes like, I can leave here, my job is done. He's like, but you didn't do anything at all. That was fucking inspired. What was that? What was the point of that coming for that?
Raz is like that guy. Like, I could tie somebody's hands up with like string, and then they'd break out, and he'd be like, "Is this guy Houdini? What the fuck?"
Exactly. Yes. What mastery does he have over the ropes and the string?
Hey, look, it worked the last time when 100 Thieves did it. He thought he could make it happen again.
Yes, indeed.
And so, like, yes, it just happened. And it's wild because it wasn't even, like, just the Jace being a bad pick. I thought even the Akali flex was rough, too, because it ties you to having, like, no damage in your composition. So, like, even though I think, Orin pick, I legitimately think either Sion or even GP can work there, right? But Sion's probably going to be is going to handle this.
Was it mysterious like a GP in general being picked in the series, and then it looked like I was surprised he didn't go more on the draft here. Yeah,
I'm surprised. Like, he literally played it in the Golden Guardian set. I was like, okay, he's expanding his champion pool, willing to play Orin. Great, most broken champion right now. Like, he went right back, and so it's just not what he wants to play. It's very clear, and that's the bigger telling story for me with Cloud9. And I know we'll talk about it later, so I'll hold on to it. Is the fact that, like, when the chips are down and someone has to play against a top laner he truly respects, he goes back to his core champions and he will not move. He will not budge. Right. And that's the reality.
I'm surprised he didn't play GP, because like that would have been a significantly better pick in this in this situation. And what surprised me is that he was playing GP in their last series.
Yeah.
So like I didn't understand what the emphasis on the Jace here was. And also, I mean, credit to Evil Geniuses too, because they had a good read. Like, when C9 beat Golden Guardians, I think they got false confidence from playing very aggressive, like MF or Caitlyn bot lanes, and having significant pressure and kind of playing weak side, at least in style, weak side top lanes. Yeah. And EG read this very well. They said, okay, we're going to give you the Caitlyn. We know that's your priority. And here's the thing. We're going to have Ornn and Ryze. You will not be able to poke us out late game. We're taking Yuumi. We'll just heal up all that poke damage if you even get there. We have extreme hard engage onto your poke line with Ornn, Nocturne, and Realm Warp, and Yuumi speed, everything like that. So effectively, Cloud9's only win condition was, hey, let's stack dragons. And then we were talking about this because we did a watch party for it this last weekend. And then they get Ocean Soul, and I was like, oh my God, this
that's
is the
where the
worst.
universe didn't want them to win Monty. Exactly. That's the kick in the dick from Fate.
Because we were sitting there and I was like, I really don't even think EG cares if they get Ocean Soul because like, how are they going to regen? They're all squishy. They're going to engage on the back line and then they're going to instantly die, and that's going to be it. Like, Ocean Soul literally does fucking nothing for you. So it was also unfortunate for Cloud9 that they got like the 1-in-5 roll that was going to be absolutely shit for them.
It was hilarious. Like,
it was really
the analyst
funny.
desk, we were like talking about it in the analyst desk, because like Ocean Soul, I was like, wow, this is actually the most useless soul there. And then they get Elder, and it's like, it still doesn't matter. They get Giga outscaled.
You have to be able to get people down low enough for Elder to work, which they could never do. Yeah. So it also didn't matter. It was bad. It was. It did feel like kind of, like a Greek tragedy where the gods are just against you and playing games with mortals due to their hubris. That first game where I was like, holy shit, this game is actually just cursed for C9. Like, there's nothing is going their way.
Every fan, and I'm sure the players themselves are going through flashbacks, like that Doug looking at the cupcake kind of flashback to the 100 Thieves series, and it's like, oh, it's happening again. Okay.
Also, I have to say, if you are a fan, I was talking about this on the watch party, but like, two of the teams in the playoffs, this is super relevant for. So think of the top players we've got left in the playoffs, Raz. We've got Impact on EG, we've got Bwipo on Team Liquid, and we've got fucking Someday on 100 Thieves. One of those is not like the others. Dude, we're in a meta now where you can play fucking Ornn and Gangplank. Like, this is the fucking Korean top laner's dream. This is the weak side Korean top laner. Like, this is just how you win a championship. Like, Impact and Someday, this is going to be right in their wheelhouse for the teams that they're on. Like, I actually think it gives those teams a little buff. Meanwhile, Bwipo actually, listen, he was supposed to be one of the big imports that's dominating all the people at his position. He's looked a bit ropey in the playoffs, mate. He's looked a little bit like I'd rather be on the Impact side of that one, or like the Someday side. Just give me the Ornn. My guy can play safe. They'll let the rest of the map win. Bwipo ints like fucking Summit did here. This could be a dodgy next match.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of, what is it called again? When a team is just constantly winning and they just have forgotten like what is an unsuccessful draft or an idea. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias.
There you go.
Yeah, confirmation bias. Because like they have been a team that's like, oh, maybe we can play Lucian, and I know we'll talk about it later on, but like they'll try and go for pretty heavy early game drafts because it probably works for them consistently in scrims. But like that is just not the meta. Like Ornn right now is just busted. He's a broken type of champion.
Every region.
Yeah. He has like I think like a 62% win rate, and he's like the highest picked champion right now in playoffs.
I'll just check that.
Yeah.
I could believe it totally.
And so like he's the highest picked champ for my mind. He has an absurd win rate, and a lot of the times those drafts are coupled with naturally control mage mid, probably an Aphelios or Zeri bot lane. And a lot of the times, if you are making a mistake, which will happen, like it's North America, teams will make mistakes. Like I say this, LPL has made a mistake, and I've watched you guys talk about it too. I'll watch those games entirely later on. But like if you make a mistake, there's no forgiveness. You literally get stomped in larger team fights. So it's pretty absurd. And it kind of goes back to Cloud9 where it feels like they're aggressively playing against it. Another pick too that they later on started playing was Twisted Fate, where it didn't work for Fnatic for a good reason. For a long time, early pick Twisted Fate, while it was successful, like theoretically was like not good because enemy team could just either go Ornn top, like Tom Kench support, and if it's banned, you can go. It has been going Alistar bots and Zaya, who's been really popular. So it's like, okay, what angles do I have? If the enemy team is playing respectfully and not trolling out of their minds, like I'm very useless. So I think the drafts overall for Cloud9, especially in game 1, was just like really bad. Game 2 is good. I thought game 2's draft was nice. I like that one.
Because here's the thing, Monty. As much as, like, look, obviously this is the nature of the show. You talk about the matches that just happened. Like, the crazy thing is this. You know, when I was talking about how if you're Fnatic, like, they still finished third, but obviously there's a world where if you're looking at that roster, you're like, do we make, like, a gamble panic move, basically? Do we try and, like, upgrade and hope it makes the team better and win the split and go to world, blah, blah, blah? Cloud9's in a scenario now, dude, where no one thought they would have to change players after the split. Like, if I were them, first of all, they have not addressed at all, you'll notice, what happened with that Winsome situation. This guy just played the whole split, and then he's just out after one split, one series, and he's just gone. He
must
just
have
disappeared.
had stage nerves. That's the only explanation.
Gone from reality, just doesn't exist anymore. Then you look at the rest of the team. Their team is in the worst possible condition you could end a split in. Summit is inting the shit out of all the games. Fudge just did nothing. He wasn't bad, but he just did nothing. Blabber looked like he was pretty fucking shit in that series. Wasn't the fucking pop-off jungler. What more do you want? What can Berserker do? Berserker, by the way, never even in a position to win a game. He's the bloody ADC. Like, you can't just 1v9 in 2022 points. Like, when you're behind all the games and a scaling draft on the enemy. Like, it's not going to happen. Well, so, like, if I were Cloud9, I don't know what you do, Monty. Like, the whole project looks failed to me.
I think, look, they don't have a way to actually play the game and win because the way that Summit wants to play the game is not the way that's going to win them the game. Like, Summit can't play the Camille and do a 4-1 split comp when he's inting on Camille. Like, that's not an option. I liked what they did in the Golden Guardians series because at least if you have the GP, you can start grouping and trying to, stack towards Soul or play around these objectives. But the Camille was really kind of not very useful in that game, and yet they still tried grouping because she was behind and couldn't win these 1v1s. But it's also what they're giving up. I mean, they're giving up Zeri to EG blue side every single game. No other region is. Show me another best of 5 where Zeri's been available in 3 of the games. Like, that doesn't happen. It's so like fundamentally disrespectful. And okay, like I get you give up Zeri in game 1 because you want to play Caitlyn Lux. Fine, like roll the dice on that one. That's okay. Why do you give up Zeri in game 2 when you're playing Jinx and Tom Kench? Like, that just defeats the entire purpose. You gave up a power pick with no ostensible advantage in order to, you're not achieving anything. Yeah. And then on top of that, I really like the Karma pick from EG. Like, the Karma has been kind of a fringe meta pick. It's very good in certain situations. I think EG's drafts were great this series. I think they did a really good job. And I love the Karma pick because it allows you to have extreme priority in the bot lane, which then accelerates your Zeri even faster. The problem with Cloud9's composition is that they don't have any way to ever kill Zeri. There is no way to kill Zeri with this composition. Like, you're not going to hit Zeri with poke, not with an Ornn in the front line. You're not going to be able to catch Zeri in any conceivable fashion. So Zeri combined with a Karma, like that speed is just going to clean up team fights because you literally can't kill her. So I don't know what Cloud9 was thinking. Like, I think that this was very doomed from the start of this game. And then you get into the third game of the series, and Summit's playing Gwen. Okay, again, how do you kill Zeri? I only like Gwen compositions like we were talking about earlier when you have a low mobility backline so that the Gwen can get into the backline and start killing the carries. The only way you kill Zeri with this composition, if you're Cloud9, with a Twisted Fate, Lucian, Nami, Jarvan. So first off, Jarvan ult doesn't do anything to Zeri. Second of all, okay, so let's say Twisted Fate ports into the back line and manages to gold card Danny. Well, they have a million peel options with Gragas, Alistair, Rise even can root them. So basically, you have to hope that you get multiple gold cards onto Zeri to lock her down long enough. You'd have to like gold card Everfrost, Zhonya's gold card again, and that's maybe how Zeri dies. Like, how reliable is that? It's not fucking reliable. Yeah. And so C9's only gambit this entire series was, let's do well enough, or in games 1 and 3, let's do super well in the early game. We want to draft towards that priority, and then maybe we just snowball a massive advantage. But the top lane is never in sync with that plan. And the top lane picks don't fucking make sense. Like, they don't do anything in these compositions.
I liked game 2 a little bit more from their draft. At least they have split push options. And
that was fine. Options. It was just he inted.
Yes, exactly. He played poorly. He played really poorly.
Yeah.
So that one sucked. And what also sucked is that their 2v2 mid played really poorly too. I think I'm trying to remember who died early. I think it was Trundle. I would have to actually look back. I made a note on that one just to make sure. I know he gets killed. Yeah, it was actually Trundle on that first one. And then they tried to contest Rift Herald in the 8-minute mark. And then like Trundle just face checks into Victor and then dies again. So at this point, Victor just has 2 kills. So your early game from the 2v2 aspect is just done. And then Camille is just inting there too. So your overall late game plans of having poke, kiteback, and generally speaking, you're just going to be playing for split and avoiding all fights. It's a fringe draft in this meta, and they were bad. Like, they played it poorly.
Yeah, I think if you have the Corki, the Tom Kench, the Trundle, and the Jinx, you can play long-range siege on and play a 4-1. You can do that. And you will be strong. You try and poke them off the objectives, but you don't fight with this composition unless you're fighting with the Camille. Like, that's it. So it is, you're peeling with Trundle Pillar, you're peeling with Tom Kench, you're trying to use, range advantages. But the other problem with this is, like, Berserker doesn't even buy rapid fire cannon. So, like, do you have like that much? You're not even accentuating, you're not even itemizing in a way that accentuates the advantages that you have.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it just feels like a mismatch between the way that Summit wants to play these games out, and indeed the way Summit is capable of playing these games out, because he does seem deluded at this point in time, and the way the rest of the team actually thinks that they can win games.
Yeah. I mean, imagine playing the whole split as well, and you always have a massive top advantage. In fact, he's even just solo killing people. Like, now you're playing a totally different game. You've never had that once in this series, like, say, an alien game. What was the point you were making earlier, Raz? Now would be the appropriate time, like, what you noticed about, like, essentially, you set it up well. When they had the series they played against Golden Guardians, because he did actually play different champions in the champion pool, it seemed to address that criticism, like maybe he has a limited champion pool, blah, blah, blah. But actually, it sounds, I thought the same thing, mate. I thought, to me, it was more like, yeah, but look who he's playing. I don't think he respects those players.
Yeah.
I think he's just doing it to sort of like make a point. And as you said, he just went back to his old reliable, right? He went back to what you always go back. What do you think about this point? Because it seems like it's a limited factor, right?
I think so. And I think the toughest thing for any team is when your strongest player, the strongest performing player, who at this point seems, and I think everybody's on the same page that he's going to get MVP. Like,
he was the MVP. It should be.
Exactly. He's going to be. Like, it feels like that's going to be the case. Like, and he is what's limiting your team. Like, that's a lose-lose situation in every respect. I don't expect them, I know we'll talk about it later on, to like be back on this team, because it feels like it's just stubbornness. And it's the confirmation of bias of like, oh, I am destroying the domestic top laners and for like the majority of the LCS. And of course, like, he had that one game versus Team Liquid where it was his Tryndamere versus Whipple's Jax, where yes, Whipple also had a bad game there, where he's like, okay, I'm once again shit stomping on people. So then why do I have to learn these other champions? Like, even if I already know them, his Camille, I thought he executed his Camille well. He could play a good Camille. He could play a good GP. Like, we saw that even when Golden Guardians rolled over, like he had good mechanics on the champion, but he doesn't. It doesn't feel like he wants to play those champions. So those are the worst conversations because it makes offseason really tough. And I think he's an incredible player, and that as long as he's able to grow off this, and hopefully the competition in the LCS is better enough so the enemy top laners are not just letting you get away with it. So now you are just not growing and coming to wrong conclusions, where I feel he is. And then like hopefully next split he comes back, because it's like a missed opportunity. So that was the case. I also agree with the game 3 point. Game 3, it just felt like this team was out of it. They had a completely early game focus, like Twisted Fate into what we were just talking about. Like you can't make a play on side lanes. You're not going to be able to dive bot. And you're right, Evil Geniuses, Monty, like just had great drafts throughout. They were always counter picking support. So the strategies that C9 had of diving bot lane was never going to happen. On the Karma, they were either thinning waves, so it just wasn't like they made the attempt and it was just pushed away. Where the Caitlyn Lux game, it was not a significant enough of advantage for Caitlyn to be justified in the pick. So I think everything from EG's side, from the draft, was great, and also just showcased how valuable Vulcan is as a player. And so everybody kind of said it in the offseason. I said it like multiple times. I don't understand how Cloud9 let Vulcan get away. Like I'm sure he wanted to stay on that team, but they thought they had better options that they can grow with, which is Winsome and Isles, and it was just not worth it. He was an all-pro player multiple times in a year, like in a row. He is your best domestic support, and it just didn't, like, that one for me was like the biggest lesson for the offseason.
No, I'm with you on that one. Like, it goes without saying, if people don't know, there's a reason Vulcan himself has like single-handedly held up all the fucking roster boards of teams for a couple of off seasons, because he essentially, bear in mind, he's an NA player, but who's always one of the better players at a position. You also typically, like, people want to waste the import on mid lane. You don't want to always make it support player. So actually, he's mega valuable, of course. Yeah, it was a big gamble to go on this other direction they went. That's why I bring up that topic I did before. Bring it back again. This is not like, bearing in mind, the first things first, they don't have a coach. They have no real head coach in this team. The guy they even have as their head coach now wasn't supposed to be the head coach. He just had to do the job because the other guy got fired and he moved into his spot. So for me, one, you've got to fix this coaching problem. Because, you know, everyone had that angle of like, well, all the guys they still have though are like LS proteges though, so maybe they'll do like a sort of LS light. Dude, if you ever watched LS stream, he hates the way they fucking play the game. Like, they don't have any holdover from LS as far as I can tell. They're doing their own shit, their own style of coaching. I wasn't impressed with that. I didn't see development during the split. If anything, they looked at, they regressed. And some of these players, I don't know how you could run. In good conscience, I couldn't run back the same roster again, mate. Something has to change. But I don't know what, Raz, because as you're saying, technically, like, the MVP's maybe the guy on the chopping block. Like the problem I have with that player as well is he is the best player, but it seems like you are going to be so one-dimensional if you have him in your team. Like, I don't feel like, to me, it's not worth having him if you're going to say you're not the best player in the team. I'm going to play through someone. Like, he can't be a weak side top laner. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you either commit to him and you say we're all in on the fucking summit angle, or you've got to do some really bold move. Like, I don't know what the move is, but I don't see how Cloud9 can run this same roster back, mate. I think it'll be terrible.
Yeah, I think it's not possible. And from the few interviews that I've seen, you know, Fudge had his interview with Degon saying that he likes mid and he wants to stay mid. So it seems like his initial intention. And I think anybody, naturally, when they make a move, they don't want to make it half-assed. Like, they want to stay in a position and like follow through their goal and being the best in that role. But I think the best C9 roster has to be Fudge top lane.
Seems obvious, jungle. Right? That's actually the ace you have up your sleeve as well. The whole time you can think, dude, no other team can do this. I can't just take out my other best player and then put like a role swap. And by the way, if it works, Fudge might be the best top laner again. If Summit isn't in the league and he's just top, he might even be the best at the role. Like, to me, it's an obvious. That's you got to gamble on that, I think.
And there are so many free agent mid laners that are available.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, Niski or Jensen both of them could come back.
Just okay. There's a million of them. There's loads of them. Yeah,
there are so many that can literally take that spot. And and there are a few in academy, but I don't think they would make that decision. It just feels like, to me, the best situation is to just put Fudge top lane, and maybe that's going to be the case after the offseason when they go through their options here. And another thing too, I think just from the fans' perspective, because a lot of people will say, well, if LS was on this team, they would do better, they would draft better. Like Veigar, Waldo, even their mid laner in Fudge, like they all believe the same things that LS does.
That's what's so insane about this situation.
Yes, like it is not a coaching thing, and is not like
player thing for sure.
It's a player thing, and it's like anybody in a coaching position, Monty, too. It's like you're not gonna force your player to play the specific champs that he doesn't want, and you only have one option a lot of the times when they are saying no or unwilling to, or just and that is a roster change, like challenging their position. But
when he was the coach, this Israeli, he's even told the story. They even drafted comps they hadn't even practiced Raz in the playoffs. Like he just had to stand there as they drafted in the actual fucking like OGN final comps, and he was like, "Well, we didn't practice these." Like, great. I guess I'm just sign up on this with my.
That was part of
exactly.
That was part of like the memes of like the CLG Korean boot camp was like we practiced entirely different compositions, and they came back to the States, and then I started watching the draft. They were playing like Lucian, Zillion bot lane. And I was like,
exactly.
It's like I know they haven't practiced this. Like I know. And the people are like, Monty sucks. I'm like,
exactly. Monty's fucking garbage. Doesn't even get the meta. He's totally misexecuted this comp. What's he doing, this bloody idiot coach? Exactly.
Yeah.
But of course, if I don't care if LS was stood there. If Summit goes, I'm taking Renekton. He has no choice. He has to just let him do it at that point. That's just the reality in it.
Because at the end of the day, like you can practice certain things throughout the scrims and everything in practice time, but when it comes to stage games, like, of course you are coordinating a proper draft. But like at the end of the day, if he's saying these are the list of champions I want to play in this draft, you're gonna have to play it and have the conversation during scrims, like of what you could do better and why you didn't like the pick. You don't want to be like, I want you to play Malphite, and when he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it, because if he ints on that pick, then it comes back to you.
It's already a precarious situation too, because if you think about the entire scenario, I mean, we've touched on this before, but it really doesn't help that Max Waldo is younger than Summit in terms of Korean age hierarchies. Like it's unlikely, I will say, given my experience, that Summit's going to like bend to Max Waldo's authority under those circumstances.
Looks like a fucking extra from Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie. Like, he doesn't even look like head coach material. What are you talking about? Just saying.
I think also the rest of the coaching staff, like they let Mithy leave during the off season, and the entire team is built around. So their other assistant coaches are also serving as translators. Like they are intended to be the bridge between the Korean players and the English speaking players. And so this entire structure was built around LS and the disciples of LS, and then the Korean coaches that were supposed to like help bridge the gap. And so when the keystone of the arch is plucked out, I hate to tell you guys, the arch doesn't stay intact. It just fucking collapses on itself.
By the way, there's another thing as well, which is this is where, because I consider myself the custodian of the narratives. I hate when people have like a whack one that gets rolling and then just gets out of control, right? Everyone's take was so whack after this series, because everyone's take went like this. They were all like, wow, bet Cloud9 wishes they had LS now, right? Based on the things I know about that situation, that thought never went through their brain once. Here was what they actually thought, and it's going to hurt a lot of your feelings. What they actually thought was this: shit, imagine how much worse it would have gone if we'd kept LS. That's what they were thinking, Monty. I tell you right now. And I don't care if anyone goes, oh my God, what does that mean? You figure out what that fucking means. I don't have to. But I don't think there was a fucking tear shed for LS in that house in this playoff series. Like, there are plenty of problems that had fuck all. He was gone ages ago. There's the other thing. Because we're fans, it feels like he left yesterday. He left after like bloody week 2. We're in the playoffs now, boys. That's the ancient history to Cloud9.
In fact, I think people will be mad about the reality of this. And I haven't talked to anybody at C9, but if I had to guess what the C9's takeaways are from this, it's that we never should have gone this hard into one person because it fucked our entire split when that one person didn't work out. So if anything, and I know a lot of people are going to hate to hear this, Cloud9 is only going to lean harder into the systems that they want to use because those systems have produced, and people, you can meme on Cloud9 as much as you want, but they have been the most successful NA team internationally in League of Legends history. That's just a fucking fact.
When they say that, think about that. You know, everyone memed on the systems, right, as though it's just a term and it means nothing, right, Monty? Dude, look at what they've done. How many fucking rookies have they produced that became players that could be sold to top players? How many people have they had who came through who were like broken players from TSM or other squads that they rehabilitated to be good? Mate, like, of all the teams, they're the only one in any that could make that brag and actually have some like validity to it. I thought that was so silly when fans were memeing on that. Like, I get that they haven't done it now, obviously. By the way, spoiler, because LS came fucking in and probably disrupted all the shit, they had to redo it all.
Well, it's also the fact that I'm sure a bunch of salty TSM fans that are mad about their team being so shit are trying to pile on C9, even though they objectively, C9, here's the other thing. In spite of all of the mega problems, C9 still got top 4. What do you want from this roster? Is it disappointing? Sure. Given what we knew coming into the season. But the fact that they still managed to get top 4 in spite of all of the fucking problems that were happening.
That's true.
Is
didn't make the
kind
playoffs.
of impressive.
Exactly.
Maybe you guys, and you can objectively say, well, C9 systems are never going to win a world championship. No NA team's ever going to win a world championship, guys. It's a systemic problem.
It's
not realistic.
What's fucked is you've nailed the psychology of TSM fans. It's like there's a famous thing I was once told, right, about Russian culture that supposedly when they were in like the Soviet period and everything sucked because you were in like the totalitarian system, people didn't really think like, oh, I hope things get better. What you would think was this. Well, essentially you would just think, well, I hope the neighbour's fucking sheep dies as well. The premise was like, if it's going to suck, it may as well suck for everyone. That is how TSM fans work. They don't think, I hope TSM turns around and it's really good. They're like, well, at least fucking Cloud9 sucks as well. Yeah, but Jack also, he also does some things I don't like. Like, is that your only corp? Is to just go, well, yeah, but what about Jack? It's like, we're talking about Reginald and the fact your team's in last place. Yeah, but Jack, his team hasn't fully worked out, has it? It's got systems and that. Like, you little rats. Just get the fuck out. TSM fans, the one thing you were supposed to be good at was talking shit. You're not even good at that anymore.
I mean, obviously, TSM's international performance is pathetic given the history. As much as you can bag on C9, and maybe you could argue maybe their systems don't allow them to achieve potentially the same ceiling as opposed to they change them. They do provide a very stable floor, guys. They provide a very stable fucking floor. And the other thing I think C9 will probably regret is that historically they don't like diva players, and they actually eject diva players from the team very actively. Like I know from talking to Jack really values grinders. He likes low ego grinders within his team. And so I think that he's probably reconsidering having a player like Summit on this roster that seems that where Summit's ego, at least from all the available evidence that we have, it appears that Summit's ego is like trumping everything on this roster because like you guys are saying.
I just realized now I know what went wrong in the off season. So they got together, Raz, and they were like, we're going to get on the same page. We're going to philosophically see eye to eye, me and you, LS, Jack and LS, right? And then Jack goes, I love grinders. And then LS goes, yeah, me too. And they were like, fuck. But the problem is, though, Jack's a boomer. He doesn't know Raz. There's another meaning to the word grinder, and it isn't. It isn't someone who loves League of Legends. It isn't. It isn't. Jesus. Anyway, don't respond to that. Don't respond to that. Okay.
But I think like if you look at the C9 success, it has been built off of this very stable foundation. And
what would you get?
There's no way.
Listen, you know Cloud9 a bit as an org, right? But obviously you weren't a coach, right? How would you characterize what the systems they're talking about? Like, what's the sex? Obviously, it's been made into this big meme topic. Just give us a basic context. Like, what do you think they mean when they say that? Like, how they do things, or what is the logic of what they're talking about? Do you think? Because no one's ever actually done that. No one's ever discussed what these bloody things are, which is just a vague concept. It sounds like, essentially, I think the reason people think it's silly is it sounds like middle management speaking of, like, we have a system and, there's a hierarchy and, like, no one really knows what it means, so it sounds a bit vague. So what's your sense for what they mean by that?
They have a personal trainer that comes to the house every day during the week. They do have mandatory workout sessions that they go to, like, basically 5 days a week. And so they value the kind of physical fitness end of things. They do have a sports psychologist who is very active in terms of holding one-on-one sessions with the players and keeping a certain mentality within the team. They have very distinct kind of dietary guides. Like they have in-house chefs that prepare food. They kind of switched back over to Korean food, I know, this year to accommodate many of the Korean players that were within the team. So they like to have team meetings. They have a certain way that they conduct the team meetings in order to give feedback to other players. The players tend to be pretty direct with each other, and they try and remove the emotional element from people reacting to potential criticism by making it kind of a more open environment, and kind of stressing the way that feedback isn't personal.
Well, sounds good so far.
Yeah, I think the environment is quite good. What they have and what they've emphasized within the team in order to fix problems. Again, they are very focused on continual improvement and grinding overall. I think that's why players like Licorice, who don't like to practice as much, were not, they kind of get rid of those players over time, because I think Jack is very canny about kind of seeing the limits of a player's performance. And if there's one thing you can say about Jack, he does tend to remove players from the roster, even though they look good at the time, in the hope that eventually, like, knowing that they've kind of hit the ceiling. Like, if there's something that, and it's not every time, guys, like people will point to Vulcan in this case, but also if you look at Vulcan, it was very clear that they were changing directions to have like a Korean speaking bot lane. And it wasn't necessarily about Vulcan's performance. I also think there was some friction between Vulcan and Sven, in the bot lane in terms of kind of the philosophy of how they wanted to play the game, which resulted in kind of some of the swapping out of Sven that we saw last year. But I do think
exceptions, though. You are right. If you look generally, they haven't made many wrong picks where the guy was better after Cloud9, have they? Like the rare exceptions is what, Vulcan and maybe Jensen. That's about it. Like, other than that, you look like Licorice, Zazo, fucking Contracts. Like, dude, they haven't put a foot wrong usually. Usually when they kick the people, it is like the Belichick move. You kick them slightly earlier than the fan thinks, but you know more than them, and you kick them at the right time. Yeah, Sven Skaren, obviously a great one. Yeah,
I think that Jack has a really excellent sense of when like players are burning out or when they're kind of on the upswing or the downswing. That's why you see him investing so hard in a young player like Fudge, who really has done well. I mean, I think Jack evaluates certain things. It's like, okay, Fudge came in. Fudge was very confident. He performed very well in Academy. I watched a bunch of those games last year. Yep. Then he goes into LCS. He's actually in high pressure situations at like, MSI, he's their best performing player, which is really shocking. So you see that confidence. He's a player who is very thoughtful in my conversations with him. He exudes a level of confidence. He's willing to play for the team to make this swap. He's willing to play all of these different picks. So he's willing to grind the time. He's willing to play around his teammates. Like, Jack loves these kind of players. This is why Fudge is the face of the team right now.
Yeah, and he made the role swap to mid. And in my mind, I know he went third all pro. He was the second best, like, mid laner in the LCS. Like, he had grown to a pretty quick degree, and I think he can get there in next split depending on what the mid lane pool looks like. I know this was a pretty weak split for mid lane pool, but like he just is able to, whenever he's put in a position, just grow and develop to a really quick degree, which is his best thing. And I agree on the sense of like, I think they'll probably just make the move away from from Summit, even if he is the best top laner, because they know that they're limiting themselves. And even if we don't think that North America can win a Worlds or all these things, like, Jack himself will always put himself in a position where he will think about the ceiling and try and get as far as possible. Like, a semifinals is, like, for him, the step he wants to get back to. So that's what's impressive about Cloud9. And the thing about LS, like, if LS was on that team from point A to point C, I think they would still face the same problems, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Maybe you can make the case for authority, but at the end of the day, like, if a person is stubborn and is confident, has a large ego, like, the only other move is to, of course, move, like, make a roster move. Like, you actually are extremely limited in what you're able to do. So I think it was just a really bad situation, this split. That being said, this split was always going to be, it felt like, experimental for a lot of teams. TSM, Cloud9, like, they can always just kind of pivot for Worlds. So I do expect a large change. And I think that, I hope Fudge stays. Berserker is a weird one. I hope he stays too, but I know they have Sven, and probably Berserker would be the most sought person in offseason, just because, being Korean, he has many options in China, in LCK, and if the offer is large enough, they can always have Sven in their back pocket, and they can just run a Sven Isles bot lane or Berserker Isles bot lane. I think Cloud9 right now is pretty set on 3 of their core players, So I think they're going to be fine. I think the only thing they need to think about is coaching, but I think I would like for them to keep Max and just have him have some semblance of control over the roster that he can build. Because I think in general that will make the direction of the team much easier from the outset if the players aligned with their coaching staff. That's what made the Reaper rosters really good.
Yeah, of course.
It's what made kind of a little bit like the what's it called? The Mithy roster really good. They got out of group stage in a really tough ass group. It's because Mithy had a good rapport with the European players that they had on that roster. And so you need to have a coach that is there when the team is built up. So it's gonna be interesting. I think Cloud9 will be fine going into the next split.
And they've got a lot of flexibility, as you said earlier, Raz, because when you look at, Fudge may not want to move back into top lane, but if you do move Fudge back into top lane and you get Jensen or Jensen's a resident mid laner, then all of a sudden you can import a European support to pair with Sven, right? Yeah. So there's many different ways that you could move this roster around that I think, could potentially be interesting. There's also do you want to potentially get Tenacity from 100 Thieves into the top lane? That could be another play that you could make if you want to keep Fudge mid, and then you can also keep a support player or get a support player as an import.
Yeah.
So I think there's many ways that Cloud9 could go about this, but I mean, I don't think Summit's coming back because it's not like Jack has been afraid to swap out MVP players. He's literally did it with Svenskeren for Blabber. That's just who Jack makes very quick decisions. It's the same reason, after 2 weeks of competition, he got rid of LS. If it's not working, Jack will change it. He's not ride or die on things that he thinks are going south. And so I don't anticipate this roster is going to be coming back in this iteration. I think they sell Berserker. I think they just don't have Korean players anymore on this roster. That's what I think. And as for Max, I hope he gets to do what he wants because it just feels like he is not in a position where he and Vagar can exert their strategic authority on this team. So having them be the ones who are selecting the players and everyone coming in with the understanding that they're in control does a lot. It does a lot.
Yeah.
Right, obviously, the other thing that was the big shock so far of the playoffs is when this split began, the story was actually supposed to be the idea that everyone thought these super teams from Cloud9 and TL were too good on paper. And even teams actually, Raz, like 100 Thieves, weren't even being considered by people. People thought they were like, that was just the summer split. They had a good, they got it together, but they weren't that great at Worlds, blah, blah, blah. Right? We're in a scenario now where not only is 100 Thieves the only upper bracket team, but man, Team Liquid has also had they've been put through the ringer of these playoffs. 5-game series against EG, 5-game series against 100 Thieves. They've had all their weaknesses exposed, mate. This is another team that looks like at this point, by the way, I'm just looking for the LCS, who's going to win, because I can't look at any of these teams and go, they're going to go international and do good at MSI. And it's looking a bit rough for MSI.
Yeah, I think also a misconception people have on Team Liquid because of their pretty long history of being the slow-paced, scaling up team, thinking that this is going to be the same team. This team is actually pretty fight hungry with and takes quite a few risks with Bwipo, and at times Core JJ, if they see a fight, they'll take it, and that's what's worked against them when they went up against EG. Sure, they won that series, but when they started their games in a deficit, when they started the games either losing 5 flashes on level 1s, 4 flashes with level 1s or something, they didn't slow the pace down like that. That's something that Team Liquid has to kind of centralize themselves on. And in the series they had versus 100 Thieves was pretty much the same thing. Bwipo had a really bad series versus 100, and it was rough. And it was that and a little bit of the draft. It kind of goes back to the conversation that we had versus C9 where Ornn was pretty damn good, and their picks versus it was always going to be losing later. And because of how Bwipo played, and a few times the rest of the members on Team Liquid, they just fell behind early, or didn't have a significant enough early game lead. So we could probably talk about it if we want to here.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I love about Bwipo is he's incredibly knowledgeable about the game, and he's definitely one of the most cerebral pro players I think in the West. But sometimes he just outsmarts himself in really weird ways. Like I get what you're doing when you're trying to like play this Lucian and you're trying to push the early aggressive angle, and this is how you think you're going to win the game by like having the Ahri open on the map and being able to like help you dive, or you're going to push out and you're going to do a significant amount of poke damage in combination with the Ezreal. But it requires, I think, very big victories in the early game in order to play out. And I think what happens with Team Liquid is they run these kind of compositions or like specialized counter picks, and they win scrims really hard. And then they're like, this is it. And then people play more conservatively in actual professional games. You don't get those kind of leads, and then you just fall off a cliff and you realize that why Ornn is super fucking good.
Yeah.
And I think when they've been at their best, Team Liquid has been playing more of a weak side top lane, which is tough for Bwipo because he wants to dominate these matchups with these like kind of weird counter picks or like very exclusive Bwipo picks and show off his wide champion pool. And his team, it just seems like there's a disconnect sometimes between the way he wants to play the game and the way his team does. To a lesser degree than the Summit angle, right? But it does feel like a kind of similar issue, except with Summit wants to play very specific champs, and Bwipo wants to like play counter champs. It's weird.
Yeah, and so they oftentimes go up against an Ornn or something. And I do think the meta is moving away against what he wants to play. If he wants to play GP, I think that's completely fine. I think the GP pick is super relevant because you can still play towards bot side. But the Graves pick and Lucian pick were very much like, okay, you are not actually going to get a significant enough advantage to put Ornn behind. Even in games that you watch through EU Masters and everything, if Ornn is like 20 or something CS behind, like he is still going to be a behemoth by like level 13. Like, and also just the passive of like the 10% bonus HP, MR, armor, like 4%.
Yep.
Every time he upgrades what's it called, an item for his team.
People don't know that still, dude. Like, it's so powerful, isn't it? I know.
It's really stupid, and so it's one of those things where people don't. If you don't have a significant enough advantage, like so you can do that versus teams you're really confident against. So the draft that they had in game 3, no, in game 4. Oh wait, no, this was game 3. This is a game that they were gonna, if they actually took this, they would have clean swept 100 Thieves, where they picked Graves, and in the early game. Not only does he get pushed up because he had like Call Longsword versus it was Warden's Mail on Ornn. And so Ornn just completely bullies him out of lane. And then he comes back and he actually loses the 1v1 to the Ornn because at this point he actually has Spellbook Ignite and he probably didn't expect that. He's literally just sleeping in the lane.
It's also that he was building like Eclipse Collector. So he wasn't building for the Ornn 1v1, right? And then he was getting crapped on. Like Bwipo's job in that is to actually just annihilate the carries, and like when the play style was not matching the way he was building. Yeah, is basically it.
Yeah, I think because that build at 3 items, I think is good because I don't know if he was going collector. I think he was probably going LDR because of the.
Oh no, he went collector.
He went collector. Okay, well,
he went collector in game 3.
Oh, never mind.
He did. He went collector and LDR. There you go.
Oh, there we go. There we have it. But yeah, it was just a flurry of sequences because after that lane, then there was the Rift Herald fight where he's just autoing the Ornn that does not care, and he's on the opposite side for his team. So it was like whether or not they were going to take the fight, it was based off of the Smite fight on Rift Herald, and so they don't really go for it. Like they don't commit. It's on Santorin. And so he is actually the only hittable member from Team Liquid, and they just kill him. So they not only do they get Rift Herald, they kill Bwipo, who's now just like at this point so far behind, they just cannot take team fights versus this team. Even if they had like a 1k goal lead, they were just getting outscaled. So that game was just straight up from the draft and also from the early game and how he played the matchup. That's just a loss.
I mean, the reason it's relevant though is, like I said, you look at like he's going if he goes to the finals, he's going to be playing against this motherfucking Ornn all day long against Impact and then someday. So he's going to have to get this figured out, mate. The other problem I have with Whippo is this. This is something I've always held from LEC. I actually love the variability of Whippo in lane because I actually always thought he's one of the Western players I want to see against Koreans. Like, he could fuck you up. He could try some move you don't expect on a champion you do not think can do it, and he can get a kill on you. But here's the problem. He also, I don't like it when, like, for example, the games I've seen in LCS where he tries to split push, like, mate, he is not someone I can trust with the lead. Like, he will just he'll find a way to die. He'll find a way to throw. Like, I have a hard time trusting him in the late game is the problem.
He's just constantly on the limit, and I think you're right. Like, that's his best attribute, is if he's going up against some of the best teams, he will find those advantages early, and he will constantly look to push it, and his team has to be on the same page with him. And so I agree. Like, I think Whippo is still someone, and he's also all the things you said about Fudge, about being insightful and honestly, like, self-critical. That's the same thing with Whippo, so I do expect him to get better off of it. Actually, the series that he had versus Evil Geniuses, where he locked in when he knew he was going to get dove. I think that was the Nidalee Renekton game. He's like, okay, sweet. I'm going to play Scion. I'm going to go Dematerializer. I will actually ward the earlier bushes in the lane. So any attempt you try to actually gank or dive me, it will fail. Like, he is a very smart player on that. So I think, Team Liquid's probably going to turn into the boring team. That would actually just might happen as a result of this. Okay. But yeah, they ended up losing because of this. And the sad reality is Game 5's draft was just really good from Team Liquid. I actually thought they played that draft out really well. They denied Twisted Fate's options. But then they had like 2 to 3 fights in a row. They just lost because they just hard ran it. Bjergsen's, he actually used Valkyrie because he had package. Yeah, package Valkyrie straight through mid lane when Dragon was coming up. They could have played that one out slowly because they had full control of that river. So he actually gets double gold carded or an ulti and just dies, and they lose that. Like, okay, that's one fight. They see 4 members. So I know at the time people were unsure because, did they only see Twisted Fate topside? Like, and they just hard ran top lane in that Baron area fight? It's like, no, they knew there were 4 members top lane. They just thought that they can win that fight regardless because they had all their members. But Zeri had flash, Twisted Fate had flash. They were always going to win that fight if Zeri played properly. So I think they just choked it at the end. It was probably, especially if they're in that situation, you can hear the crowds. You don't expect to lose this series, and you're just like hard inting again and again 2 games in a row.
I also think people overplayed the Abadage backdoor, because the only reason the Abadage backdoor was necessary is because 100 Thieves pushed too far into the base and all died. And then 100 Thieves basically made a mistake that forced the backdoor to be necessary. And then people will focus on, obviously, like, Bjergsen should not have teleported in that scenario to the Elder Drake, or at least shouldn't have come that early.
Yeah, or put control ward in their base, something like that.
I mean, there were a lot of things. Like, there wasn't, Team Liquid played it too quickly and made a macro error when I think they had more time than they realized, because the actual Elder kill would have been quite slow, and so they just didn't play it out properly. I mean, yes, that's true, but also 100 Thieves should have won the game before that even occurred. True. Now, the other scenario that I think is interesting here with that particular game is, like, I think what goes unmentioned is that there was a lot of pressure on Team Liquid in order to kind of accelerate this game or force a win. Because if you actually consider the compositions, like, Shen doesn't have a good ult target in the late game besides Alistar, and if you want to engage with the Shen. And so if Alistar's ult is down, that becomes a very difficult option for the Shen player. So you really are limited, and you're kind of, you have only certain windows around Alistar ult where you can actually effectively engage with the Shen, because the Volibear is also going to be quite squishy on any kind of engage in the late game. Okay, so you have some poke coming in from Corki and Xayah, but this Corki build doesn't have Eludens.
Yeah.
So that's gonna limit some of the damage that you can do from your poke. And then even if you are doing poke damage, I think someday building the Warmogs was really smart, so that he can, absorb a lot of that damage, because there isn't magic damage coming through. He's able to build very armor heavy with a Warmogs, which means that the poke damage just isn't going to stick. So if you're looking at the composition from Team Liquid, I felt like their goals in team fights were really, really telegraphed. And so it was pretty easy for 100 Thieves to read what they were trying to do and then counteract that, because you are so limited in the way you can engage as Team Liquid, and your poke isn't going to do anything. So I feel like the longer this game goes on, the more 100 Thieves favored it becomes.
Yeah, actually, I forgot about to mention, or even just the Corki build in general. If they had a Ludens, this would have been a better game because at least they would have he was landing poke. It just didn't do anything because he was shield bow Corki. It was like okay, you're hitting your ulti, nice, doesn't matter. Yeah, that would have been a game changer, absolutely. Because then at least if Zeri is walking up to you, you can do something. But now you just have complete team fight kite back with Zaya, which is pretty meaningless. So that's pretty tough.
I mean, what is the Shen supposed to do in the late game? Is the problem like what is this?
Sure.
What does he do?
You're right. It's basically to either go on Volibear or Alistar to start the fight and try and get on top of Zeri.
I just think it's really predictable when you set up these kind of compositions. And
which is true. Here's the thing.
What I miss is this. How is fucking Zeri in all these games? When I watch all the other regions, you never fucking see this champion played. It's like insta-banned immediately. It's played all the time. Not only that, Raz, they're giving it to like the best ADCs in the region. Like, it's so bizarre.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I do think that whole strategy, by the way, is fine as long as if they're walking up to you, if you're on Drake, if Drake's stacking, or you're on Elder, like there's actual consequences. Like poke, that's the whole value of Corki. And having and maybe like the build that Zaya had, if you end up like just sending Qs at like a Twisted Fate or a Zeri that's walking up, yes, it will be more meaningful. But they have nothing. So that's a lot of the times. I remember back in some of the comps that we were drafting in Academy and I guess on stage was like, oh, if we are picking kiteback comps, we better be able to win fights if they're at full HP, or we should have poke. A lot of the times, poke and kiteback, if you have Jace or in these situations, like Corki is just more relevant to the meta, then yes, like you for sure should be building Ludens. So that was really just weird. I agree. If the game goes on a little longer, it's just a better team fight situation for 100 Thieves. But Team Liquid had an advantage consistently because of how well they were playing that game. So they should have been able to close out. It's just tough. So I think as like kind of wrapping that one up, I think Team Liquid in the combine of that series were the better team. It's just weird to say because of how the draft shook up. But 100 Thieves for sure just played so poorly at the beginning, like at the first two games in the series, specifically Huhi and FBI. They're either getting caught out, specifically FBI getting caught out when he knows that his support's roaming and he's walking up to the wave and disrespecting Core JJ, or there was literally game one where Huhi dies to the level 2 of Nautilus because he just didn't expect it when he should have. He probably just blanked at that point. So their bot lane, 100 Thieves bot lane, was just underperforming to such a large degree that you can't even say, oh, it's because it was Core JJ and Hansama putting in like their typical types of pressure. No, it was just them really, really fucking up. And so if this happens again, and I expect Team Liquid to get to that finals with 100 Thieves, it's going to be a lot more competitive. I still would favor 100 Thieves like I did before this series, but it should be better. I always say it should be better. We'll see what actually happens.
I mean, I think 200 Thieves probably learned a lot, especially from game one. Like they wanted to counterpick the Sylas into the TF. They wanted to play this set support. It was clearly kind of experimental from them. Game two, I think it's really rough to play Vex and Vex Viego into Jarvan LeBlanc early, because even though Vex is in theory like a LeBlanc counterpick, that 2v2 in the early game is not going to be fun for you if you're Vex Viego. And so I think they learned like, okay, as good as Closer has been historically on this Viego, like we need the kind of strong early game, mid jungle combo. And when they started taking away the Jarvan and like focusing on that pick, it ended up like a lot better for them. And at least by the last game, when you have Viego TF, like you can actually set up like the chain CC that makes it a little bit more effective. Also, you're not super scared of a Corki in the early game anyway, so it's not that big of a deal.
100%.
So I think that for me, what I saw over the course of the series was kind of like the learnings from 100 Thieves that, okay, we need to prioritize more early game junglers. This is going to be more effective, at least to help Abadage, who was getting absolutely shit on in game 2.
Yeah.
It was really not fun for him to play that game. And
Yeah.
then from there, we can actually start doing more things on the map, and we can neutralize the advantage, because Bjergsen was kind of getting out of control in the first couple of games.
Who do you favour, Monty, for the final? Assuming it's 100 Thieves TL as the match, we're going to assume those are the finalists.
Okay, so it depends on a couple of things. Like, again, I think that whatever is going on in scrims where Bwipo's getting big advantages early and they're able to translate these things into victories should not be counted on in terms of the finals. So I think if he plays more standard compositions and standard matchups, I think that Team Liquid is probably slightly favored. If they've learned nothing and 100 Thieves has decided that they want to play very powerful mid-jungle combos to enable Closer and Abadage, that's the best way that they're going to be able to win these games. I don't think they need bot push or bot aggression. I don't think that's necessary. I think FBI and Huhi will do well in the team fights in the late game. And sometimes very stable on the weak side. So if I were them, I'd just focus on mid lane for Abadage, get him ahead. And then basically you force Hansama or Bwipo to carry, and Bwipo was not capable of doing that in this series, even when he was on ostensibly carry champions or in matchups that he liked.
Yeah. And I do think you need counter pick support. Jungle at this point is so meaningless in the draft that you either are first picking it, like we're seeing first pick Lee Sens, Viego, Volibear. It's always kind of been the trend of any meta is that, okay, like, we want to counter pick for jungle, but the moment the lanes are, especially bot lane, is becoming really important. And so either be it shove or just how the team comp generally plays out, kind of like the learnings from the C9 EG game, where we're seeing a lot more the Karmas, the Yumis. If you're able to play mage supports and kind of not lose out in your ability to still take team fights because you have a J4, then great, let's early pick J4. So I don't expect to see J4, Viego, and like Lee Sin bans. I think those are still going to all be up. We're even seeing EG still play like Nocturne blind or like really early picks. So I would favor 100 Thieves, like I said. And I think it's just going to be because their bot lane has been strong. Their team fights overall have been, their team fighting has been overall strong. Like Closer and Someday have just been their most consistent players, period. And have been, like, Someday has just been the best top laner right now.
Oh, it's legit as fucking. His Renaissance run is so nice to see.
It's crazy to see Someday at this level again.
Because obviously, it was a bit whack that he won when, like, it was his worst split ever, arguably, like, it's actually cool he's good while they're actually a top team now.
Exactly. So the top team they're a top team now. He can play carries if he wants to, the carries in being Tryndamere, but he could do that. And I think that they understand the drafts. They will prioritize Ornn, and they will not get punished. If they do, it's going to be Team Liquid trying to play Sion, GP, or Aatrox. And I don't think the Sion and GP, or at least the Sion and Aatrox, are going to be significant enough. Because even if Sion does well in early lane, it's still going to be a late game Sion versus a fucking Ornn gifting his teammates 1k extra gold per member. Yeah. You're like, okay, nice, helpful.
Well, also, I think what's interesting is TL banned Lee Sin in every single game of this series, which is really not a good sign, because this is a pick that in LPL right now is like risen to first rotation, like either first pick blue side or first rotation red side.
Yeah.
And if they cannot play that pick, then what it does is it puts the premium on the Jarvan and the Volibear in a way, in which case, if 100 Thieves is on blue side, like, they have this opportunity to like ban one of them and first pick one, and then what does Santorin play? Knowing Santorin is probably Trundle, like, that's just like the hierarchy of Santorin junglers. So I think there's some really uncomfortable situations that 100 Thieves can put Team Liquid into, and especially considering they're going to have side selection in first game, I think you do favor them a bit, because I think 100 Thieves has to change. The reason I say this is I think 100 Thieves has to change less than Team Liquid has to change to win this final.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, generally speaking, if we already saw 100 Thieves win in a best of 5 and they have to change less, then you tend to favor that team, at least in this specific matchup.
Yeah.
One thing I love, by the way, is that even though in theory, if you actually understand the premise of On, it seems like it should be broken as fuck. Like, it seems like everyone should know how to play to that. But the genius of why it works is this, because think of the sort of people who play League of Legends, though. Essentially, On is like an adult's version, Monty, of that famous thing. There's like a psychological test they do on kids called the marshmallow test, where they take a kid who's like, I think it's if you're like 6 or 7 years old.
Delayed gratification.
You take a kid, right, Raz, and you tell him, right, you can either eat this marshmallow now, or I'm going to leave the room for 30 seconds. And if it's still there when I come back, you get another one. And the problem is, like, they purposely pick the age so they're not like super rational about it. The idea is the ones who have poor impulse control just eat the marshmallow immediately, and they don't get another one, right? It's the same with On, because in theory, right, if I explained, like in some of these drafts, you know, if you just don't do anything, you get stronger and stronger. Yeah, but if anyone's ever played League of Legends, if you're a top laner trying to get your teammates not to fight and have skirmishes constantly, is like, you're never going to happen. Like, you know that in theory it will be better guys, but you'll never stop them doing it. It's the same as if you're a mid laner and you're super powerful and you're split pushing, and all you're telling your comment the whole time is just don't fight until I group with you. Just don't fight. Just let me get this last wave. They'll always fight on that wave. They will always fucking dive the inhibitor, everything. They'll never fucking wait for you to group with them. Don't worry about that. It's end now, boys. You have to understand. So listen, I want to see the dynamic on the On in that sense, because it's just going to be in every series. It's going to be one of the main picks.
It will be. Like, unless if it's banned, it's just going to be a constant. I think every team has now respected it, even if the top laner on a team, and I don't think Blippo has like an ego and he understands the value of the pick. They're just probably going to ban it if he doesn't want to play it, or he'll play it.
Yes, he might play himself a few times. Yeah, true. Yeah.
So I think that's just going to be the constant.
I mean, I think the problem with some of these bans, though, is like if Team Liquid starts on red side and they already feel like they have to ban Lee Sin, and then they feel like they have to ban Ornn, that's going to leave up significant power picks.
Yeah, I think the problem for Team Liquid is that. I think Team Liquid's problem is that they're probably going to pick Trundle or Volibear, and they're going to go up against Zeri if they don't ban it, or Jinx, like Zeri or Jinx, and they're just going to get kited to hell. Those two champions, mostly Volibear, is so bad in the later portions of the game, and you cannot threaten the back line. I think Volibear definitely needs to be benched.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think given what we've seen, it's hard to predict Team Liquid, but the upside of this roster, and we talked about this last week too, but it is embarrassing, this Team Liquid roster. With all the Cloud, like basically Cloud9 is like tanked all the fan aggro for, you know, not unrealized expectations, and nobody's actually focusing on the fact that this should be, in theory, on paper, the best roster maybe in LCS history.
For sure.
Like this roster, if this roster cannot do damage at an international level, like what hope is there left for NA? Like they waited for this is like, you know, in Dune when the Bene Gesserit had to take like thousands of years to produce the Muad'Dib, like very deliberately.
That's Ragnarok, but yeah.
the Kwisatz Haderach. Sorry. Yeah, and so when you look at this roster took years and years and years and years of planning and like, delivering cards, everything, exactly. And like luring Bjergsen from TSM, and it's like, if this roster isn't the great shining hope of North America, what is? Right? What could possibly be?
Obviously, Steve Arhanset and Bjergsen, who was like, he recreated that scene. He was like, at last we reveal ourselves to the Jedi. But then the problem with that is you're already fucked, because if you say that line, you're in a Star Wars prequel, so it's already a bad movie. So it's over already. See what I did there? See what I threw you in there? I lowered you in that time. It's all right.
I did not expect that.
But yeah, like, so, you know, Cloud9 has been tanking all this aggro. So I guess nobody's just mad at Team Liquid, and this team that should never go to the lower bracket, that was by far the favorite amongst all the unknowns. Because you mentioned earlier, Raz, like, we didn't know what was going to happen this season, but what we did know was this fucking Team Liquid roster was straight fire and was carrying the absolute weight of being the by far championship favorites on paper of any team. And this team should be able to, in theory, contest top teams from around the world. And the fact that their macro play in the late game, it seems so suspect. Their draft is kind of not on point right now. It really makes you wonder why people are not more frustrated with what's going on with Team Liquid right now, because it is underwhelming, and there's a possibility that they don't even make the finals.
I mean, one thing I'll say as well
Wait.
is like this is also for me where people have to look at like what personnel you pick, because Giotto as the coach has never been on a team like this before. He's never had like the biggest roster with all the off-season signing super team. He's always working with either like good team that's like a playoff team, maybe trying to break through to a world spot, or he works with a team that's a borderline playoff team. He's usually the guy where, for me, he's more like the Dylan Falco thing. It's like you're out there, you're trying to find a player who's all right and figure out how to use him, and then make this guy a little bit better and have a clever draft. Like super teams are different. Super teams are about like managing the egos, figure out who's actually in charge of. Like, there's so many complicated things there. Like, the hardest task in the game, in my opinion.
It's really tough, and I do think that they'll learn their lessons. And he's talked about it a few times about like being on a team like this is extremely easy when you have the amount of veterans that you do that could talk through things on an objective level. But then there's the difficulty of like when you feel like the limit there is no limit, that it's hard to cap yourselves.
Yes.
It's hard to say we should stop here. This is the play style that this is what we should be playing. Or we shouldn't go for these fights.
Yeah.
When you feel very confident as a team that you should just be astronomically better.
Yes.
So we'll see what the conclusions are when they go up against EG. I do think this will be a better series for Team Liquid versus EG, because now they're face to face with their problems. So it's a lot easier to go through scrims, or I don't know how many scrims they're actually having with the teams that are available now, but at least like going through the VODs with, a little humbled, like going through the games and now realizing, okay, yeah, we failed. Like that's a reality, and they'll get better, they'll get stronger. And I know EG looks good right now, but Team Liquid should be the team that gets to the finals. And whether they can beat 100 Thieves is an entirely different conversation. And I think people have been really sleeping on 100 Thieves, but I also do think that the way 100 Thieves have been playing during the regular season was egregious. So like, the way like their bot lane was performing poorly at times, but for sure Abaddage was invisible. So
he had some bad games for sure.
Abaddage was putting the dog in Abaddage for a lot of this.
Oh, yes, he was. Yes, he was. So like they were sleeping on them, but for good reason. Like it was actually for good reason that they were sleeping on them.
Exactly.
But like with players, I've said this before, but a lot of players that have done great things before, you expect them when the pressure actually comes, that they will come back to that level of play, or at least close to it. So I thought that Abaddage wouldn't continue to perform poorly. Like I thought that would be crazy if he was just in his second year of NA and was just laying eggs through like consistently. That just speaks to someone's like level of effort that they're putting in. But that's not the case here. I think he's really starting to ramp it up. So that's great, and I think that's probably going to be the key to their series. Yeah.
Dude, I thought for real at first he was like trolling in that interview where he kept just dropping the F-bombs over and over and over and over again. But then I realized eventually like he isn't doing it intentionally at all, guys. Like for real, they're just coming out. And also he is just apparently just like in that, because we've had him on shows, he's like a very mild-mannered person normally. He must just go wild when he's won a game or something, because it's mad. It's like you can imagine him at a fucking like a eulogy, like, and he lived a fucking great life, that fucking damn, like holy shit, he just kept dropping them over and over again, didn't he? And the whole time, by the way, I was just waiting. Like they didn't show the camera on it, but like, because I remember that first time Tigris did that one where he dropped that one and he like completely caught her off after when they won the finals last time, and he dropped it right at the moment. You could tell she was like, "Whoa, I was waiting for that reaction, but she was prepared this time. She battened down the hatches this time. It was all okay. It was all okay.
Meanwhile, closer is literally just like, okay, you got to stop at some point.
You could almost see him for real, sort of being like nudging him, like, "Come on, man!" Like, but I could tell Abaddage didn't get it at all. He didn't. It's a bit like basically I have another show I do on Deserto in CS:GO, right? And they told us on that this will just be funny, so who cares? On the last one, Monty, they told us before we went live, by the way, and this has happened to me in my career before. They said, "We just got one note, Thorin. Can you just not say cunt anymore?" And I was like, whatever. And I even thought that naively, I was like, no big deal with that, is it? And what happened was about 20 minutes in the episode, I dropped on and I went, "Oh, sorry, I've just done one." And they were like, "I wouldn't worry about it. You dropped on 5 minutes in." I was like, what the fuck? That's the problem. If you have words in your vocabulary, boys, they will come out. They will come out. Exactly.
Yep.
Well, especially like after you're all amped up on stage and the adrenaline of winning, and that's This is why sometimes it can be a bad idea for people to interview athletes or professional, like people who have a lot of adrenaline in their system right after a game. Because, like, famously a few years ago in the NFL, there was like Richard Sherman just like talking mad shit.
Oh, the Crabtree one,
Crabtree, which was, by the way, a fabulous interview. Like, it was great.
My favorite
people got was mega mad about that.
The best part about that interview ever was just that woman wasn't listening properly. So he goes like, "Don't ever put someone on me like that." And she goes like, "But who's talking about you?" And he goes, "Crabtree," like, because that even better that she was almost like annoying, like the way she asked him just made him go even more ham.
And like normal people just don't understand that because they've never had that experience, so then they just judge you really harshly. It's like, you are a fierce competitor. You just had to get yourself amped up and run around a fucking field on super amounts of adrenaline for like the last 3 hours, or like in this series, like a full 5-game series where you reverse swept. Dude, you are so like pumped at that point in time that like God knows what you're gonna say. Like, you would not be making those decisions, those same decisions if you at the beginning of the day even. 100%. And so like, there has to be like, this is the whole thing, is like it's the same shit why people like trying to police people's behavior in like scrims or in solo queue. Like, you're in a different mode.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're in terms of your neurochemistry, you are not in the same place that you are in a normal situation, which is why people behave like this. Like, it's not like you're some kind of rabid animal that's out of control, right? But some things are going to happen differently, and they're not always going to be entirely in control.
Like, you have to realize, you can be in the other room from someone playing solo queue, you just hear people pleading, fucking cursing, like, "I will never trust you again." It's like, what the fuck high drama's going on there? They're just playing video games. That's it. Your team betrayed you. That guy stole your blue with one last hit on it. This guy fucking messed up the whole lane, the jungle, and took the lane. Everything drive you crazy.
2016, I know broadcasting competitive is completely different, but like the adrenaline in the game, especially in LPL games, are like, it can get you. I realized I needed to change my vocabulary. Like day-to-day vocabulary, because I cussed a lot, and like in my day-to-day, I would say the N-word a lot. So I realized I actually like should stop saying this, because there were multiple times where I would drop the F-bomb. And there was one time in the LPL, and, viewership on that one, no one's going to watch it, I for sure said the N-word. And so I'm like,
no way.
I literally said it.
There's going to be some deep law. There's one guy has to record that somewhere on his hard drive. No one else has ever seen it. Okay.
Good luck finding that one. Okay. So I just realized, no, I got to stop. I got to weed it out of my vocabulary, because it will come out. It actually will. So.
Well, luckily for you, in that case, Raz, the joke is the Chinese would have just thought you were sort of saying like hum.
Yes, yeah.
There exactly. You got away with that one. You got away with it there. You got away with it there. You got away with that one. Exactly. Yes.
No one will find it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the plausible deniability on that one, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. Like, unless you actually like wholesale change yourself, like when you're at your kind of most emotionally unstable, that's when it comes out. But yeah, I thought it was great. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
We're not, the thing about esports that's so confusing to me is like, we're not under the aegis of like the FCC. Like, there isn't anybody that's actually going to punish a broadcaster for saying the naughty words. So who cares if we say the naughty words?
Remember when we did Flashpoint, right? Because when we did our CSGO tournament, Raz, because it's just on Twitch and it's CSGO, we just made the editorial decision. We're just going to swear. So like, instead of saying, the player's bad, I say shit. We have to realize fans for about the first week, mate, were just going like, can you believe they're just saying it? Like, what's gonna happen? And will they get in trouble? It's like nothing happened. Like, you just keep going. Like, it's just a show. Like, the whole point is, unless there's actually like unless essentially like Riot or someone says you can't do it, there is no problem on Twitch just swearing. Everyone's doing it. So I agree. I think it's overboard. The reason it's funny in his case is because they obviously do try to make it like a professional sports sheet, and he is just saying fuck a million times. So the contrast.
I also would say that the other thing that it did on Flashpoint was that it made the player interviews a lot better, because they would just talk like they do normally on stream, and it made them way more comfortable. And because obviously, like, Abadage was very comfortable in that interview, and it made them way more comfortable, and it made them open up and like discuss things, I think, in a more emotionally honest way, which, like, it sounds stupid that being able to curse would be able to do that, but there a lot of people, when they get into those interviews, they think, oh, I have to like change the way I'm thinking, and they're overanalyzing themselves, that they're not used to being on camera. They're concerned about their appearance, and like once we removed that, it actually made for better content for the players, in my opinion.
Exactly, 100%. I think by the end of the interview, when he realized he was saying, he had to like kind of check himself more. He actually said less, which is funny. Like the way, in the context, it was funny. But if that started from step one of like, oh, I gotta say this and that, and I can't like cuss, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not gonna. I'll just have a safe interview. So, thank God.
Exactly.
I like it.
Do we have any thoughts on EG? Moving on to the final remaining team that we haven't.
The obvious thing to say would be they can't keep getting away with it. They are eventually going to have to play League of Legends to win one of these series, Monty. Like, they're going to have to actually be better at team fighting, fucking piloting the champions, taking the objectives. It's going to eventually happen.
Look, man. I loved how they covered their weaknesses. They're like, is Jojo Pian going to die randomly in a side lane? No, he's not. Inspired's playing Nocturne. He's just going to come save him. If
there it is. Exactly. And even in the first series versus TL, where like, oh, is Impact going to expand his pool? No, Jojo will play the lane for him on the Lucian matchup versus GP. Yep. So like they are covering their weaknesses very well.
I love the coaching here. I mean, the joke is too that in game 2, when Inspired ran Spellbook Jarvan, I was like, is this instead of the Nocturne so he can take TP to go save Jojo Pian?
I'm waiting for that moment. It's gonna come.
The joke when we were doing this like watch party for it was, I was like, what is the fucking spellbook? What's in the fucking spellbook, right? Because he didn't use another summoner until like 25 minutes into the game, when he finally like switched to exhaust for the Camille. And I was okay, we finally figured it out. What the spellbook?
Well, that is a factor of like why EG's been able to get to this point, though, is they have a mega inexperienced player as their star player, but look how they set it up. Like, he hasn't been in position to make mistakes. Like, he's actually even been able to play games and just sit in lane and get free kills all game long. Like, this is the perfect recipe so far. Like, if the difference is, if he had to make all the sort of Bwipo decisions I'm talking about later, you'd expect he's going to fuck up a bit. I mean, supposedly, even for League itself, he's mega inexperienced based on the stories Peter Dunn said. So, yeah, you want to protect a guy like that as much as possible. Make his job as simple as possible.
Exactly, because it's time to win now. And I think during the regular season, they had a few different compositions that allowed Jojo to really do what he wanted to do. And there were a lot of times where he just died. Like, he had good lanes, but then post laning phase, post 8 minutes, he would just have free deaths. And I think he's getting better, and I do think it's better to fail in that way than to fail in a way where you're literally invisible. We are actually making active decisions that you can look back on. So he will get better for sure, and he's already pretty good. But the problem is, once you actually go up against well-refined teams like TL and 100 Thieves, like I think the drafting problems will come back, because they'll ban the certain champions to expose them on side lanes, and evil geniuses will probably start failing on, because it also impacts champion pool. It's actually good now because he can play Ornn, but they'll just literally ban it and won't allow it to be happening. So
all right, he'll just play Gragas. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go.
I feel like I know, how EG is going to play these games. Like they want to play for either Jojo Pian on Rise or on a very like aggressive Victor build with Airy in mid lane, like he did in this series. Vulcan had an extremely good series overall. So that was a big, I think, highlight. But what they like to do is they like to play either Jinx or Zeri in the bot lane. They want to be able to scale into the late game. They want to play with a weak side top laner that has engage and tank possibilities. And then they're just going to play around Inspired and kind of Inspired's pathing and is the way he wants to play the game, which is how you expect this team to play. Now, how many... my question is, how many variations of this do they have?
Not enough.
You think it's not enough? You think the bans are just going to wreck them?
I don't think it's enough, unless, I guess, Impact can still play GP Shen. So, like, if he is willing to play those and there is a draft that actually makes those work, then yes, I think you will not be able to ban out how Impact wants to play the game. And it'll just be purely on play. So if Jojo Pian is just the more consistent player, which for me would be surprising because last series was the best, string of games that he's had all split long, then yeah, Evil Geniuses can win. So I don't think it's a given. I do think that EG will take games, but Team Liquid just should still be the better team.
My problem is the last series, EG didn't seem to me like they thought they could win. That's to me is the biggest red flag, where it's like we have to have all these level 1 set plays, and then game 5 it has to be Renekton in Italy. To me, like that's the red flag, where it felt like they were clever to get as far as they did, but they felt like they needed a gimmick, or they felt like they couldn't play straight up.
That's true.
Against TL.
No,
They didn't have the confidence.
Just because we're talking about EG, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that insane clown show moment early on in the I think it was in game 3, wasn't it? It was the game where Inspired was on Jarvan Monty.
Oh, it's game 2.
And he did that drive-by gank on mid lane, and then he used the abilities to get out of the lane, just like use the drag. But then because he did that, his spells were on cooldown, and then the Trundle came in and killed like his mid laner or whatever it was, wasn't it? It was so embarrassing because he was just stood there. What? Like essentially,
so he was on a ward beforehand. He was on a ward beforehand, and he literally just walks through mid lane like past Fudge, and then just like EQs out of the lane, and then Trundle's
just
in the top side. And Trundle just walks in and like pillars jump yeah. I was just like, what is happening?
Go back and watch this moment. It's so funny, especially because like Inspired was like a world-class jungler. He's not some nobody. Like it was such a ridiculous, like it was just one of those moments where you think that there's nothing wrong with like burning this like ability, but like it actually literally just cost you a kill on your team. Like it was so stupid. Yeah, it was so stupid. Because in general, by the way, there's another factor. If we want to talk about, like, mate, in general, the imports to NA, they're fucking hit and miss this year. Like, I thought Inspired would do mad work on this EG team, but like, he's just kind of like he's just good. He's not like a star player to me, Raz, when he's in the LCS for some reason.
Yeah, he's been good. I think there's been mistakes throughout the majority of the split, and a lot of that is kind of the shit that I feel like he hasn't had before. Like he's had work with Larson, and so a lot of the times him and Larson works, because a lot of the times Larson would just get prio mid and would respect a lot on the map. He would either respect the opposing mid laner and respect the jungler, so what him and Larson would get accomplished would be consistent. But it's just been so hit or miss with him and JoJo, because JoJo would either take risks and they would die as a result, or they would expect a counter gank. There's still one moment, forget which team it was against during the regular season, it was later on in the season. It was like, oh, they're counter ganking. They're literally expecting the gank because they see it on a ward and they're going to be able to turn it. And then JoJo just insta-dies on it, and they're like, okay, so we just misread it. Like, we just completely misread this 2v2. And that's what made Inspired look worse. I think Inspired has been a good jungler. I think the pool of junglers this split has been really good, and that's been the kind of the story. But him and working with more inexperienced players has been the problem. So it will take time.
I dropped the moment into our Discord chat, Raz, so you can.
If you want to see the hilarity,
it's like it's actually hilarious because he like Teemo emotes as well, and then as soon as he EQs, like Fudge just Valkyries forward.
If you go to the VOD, it's at like 9:38 or something. Or in terms of actual in-game time, I can't see the in-game time. It's replay. Never mind.
Yeah. Nah, this is hilarious. Nah, this is actually
funny though. It's so, how rarely are you ever actually just gonna die because like you're gonna lose a kill just because you used the fucking abilities there? Like I know exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, I saved 1/4 second by using my abilities.
Because my favorite part about it as well, dude, is like not only does he not have the abilities, but he's even stood right there, just having like fucking like Bruce Wayne, just watching his parents like gone down, like what? No,
no.
What could I have done? Like, there's nothing you can do now, is there? It's too late, mate. You did the drive-by. It's too late. It's too late.
That's too funny.
You're right, the part I forgot, the real icing on the cake is the Teemo emote right before it. That's what makes it even better. Yes, exactly. I agree.
What they don't show you on there is there was a ward, so they knew he was in that bush.
Yes, exactly.
And then he figured it out, and so he was just like, "Haha, you saw me." But
I love, even if that kill didn't happen, just the fact that he had to burn his flash to the core.
That's so stupid, isn't it? I know. Yeah, exactly.
So it was like, okay, we're just completely on different pages. Nice.
Perfect. I know.
Yeah.
So, you think the Team Liquid's going to beat EG in the rematch?
Yeah. And I think it'll be a little more handy, probably 3-1.
Okay. And then you think 100 Thieves will win the finals versus TL?
100 Thieves will win the finals. That one's going to be harder to predict. I do think every time I think it goes to 5 and it's a finals, a team just massively underperforms. But I will say it goes to 5, and I will bet that the underperformance will not happen. These teams have faced against each other I swear every time I'm wrong, but like I'll just put that out there. I think it'll go to 5. I think it's side select reliant. Actually, this time relying on blue side. Surprisingly enough, usually playoffs mean teams will move towards red side and get counter picks for their laners, but in blue side you're going to be able to get counter pick for support anyways. And then on top of that, you're blind picking jungle, which is pretty influential, or Zeri, whichever one works. I think those 2 picks are still really good. Jarvan has like a 70% win rate once again. Like he has an absurd. Okay, I actually have it listed, so now I'm just gonna go for that one.
He gets picked all the time, so it must be pretty high.
Yes. So I'm just making sure.
Well, he doesn't get picked at all in China, which is interesting.
Yeah. So he does have a 70% win rate at 10 games played during the playoffs. So like I think blind picking right now, just the basic team fight comps, Orange, J4, Aphelios, or Jinx, whatever, like has just been the more dominant strategy. So you'll probably see them fight for blue. And it will be 100 Thieves that win at 5.
So you think, okay, so you do think it's going to go the actual distance?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I will say, like, I actually expect the final also be fun because it's a final in front of an actual crowd. Well, that is the most domestic pressure you get. So that'll be very interesting in itself. Because actually, if you look at, like, assuming it's 100 Thieves versus TL, you've got a very interesting mix of, like, on the one hand, you've got the veterans who've played in that scenario. You've got people who came up and they only got to the top when we didn't have crowds. So who knows how some of them will perform? You never know which. All it'll take is one player in that series being just unusually half as good because you get pressure. Anyone could win that series.
Exactly.
Are you excited to be back in the stadium, as Tyler1 said? With the
actually,
here's a question: are you going to be in the stadium? Sometimes they just leave the analyst desk in LA, so that's
I will be going to Houston, so that's gonna be fun.
Good.
So that's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I think there's only been one instance in which I was in front of like a large crowd, quote unquote, and they were there for me or us. I mean, like the English broadcast. That was in 2019 for Worlds. It was group stage. Outside of that, I guess I was in large stadiums in the LPL like consistently.
You were the side broadcast.
I was the side broadcast, and I was just the crowd was there and they were reacting, but only when I was saying to the word "the." Someone else has said something like far more interesting. If I said anything mundane and the crowd is going wild, it's like the Chinese broadcast is that way.
Right there we go. There you go.
So basically, this is going to be interesting. I've loved it so far. Just being in front of the small crowd in the studio, but the actual Energy Stadium is going to be entertaining. So we'll see what that looks like.
Is that actually a proper sports stadium, Monty? What
it's where the Houston Texans play. It's an NFL stadium.
The NFL team,
fucking huge.
That's pretty big.
That's why I was really surprised that they were hosting the event there, because the NFL stadiums are like 75,000 people. They're like significantly bigger than the kind of hockey.
I mean, I'm assuming for this, they're just going to have like 5K fans or something. They're not going to have 70K.
I think they're not going to use some of the upper decks on this one, but it's still going to be a pretty substantial number of people. This is, to put this in perspective, the World Finals this year are going to be played in San Francisco at the Golden State Warriors Stadium, so it's going to be a much smaller venue than this one. So I am curious as to how they're going to use an NFL stadium that is like 3 times the size of that for this event. I
wonder.
It has a roof though, so it's not an open air stadium.
Thank
so
God.
I think they could get it dark enough.
Listen, very clever thematically to pick that team, because in many ways the LCS is the Houston Texans of the NFL of World League of Legends in many ways. So, occasionally make the odd playoff, not relevant really. And in the end, what do you expect?
See, I'm not an NFL fan, so I was happy that I didn't understand the context.
Yeah,
but then you gave the context.
Exactly, yeah. It was a burn on NA. That's why
the Texans are notorious for having terrible GMs and kind of getting rid of their good players, or having in Deshaun Watson's case, having their good players get rid of themselves in many ways through very, very, very questionable behavior. But then they get $230 million guaranteed contracts, despite the fact that nobody even knows if this player is going to be able to play. Because that's how the world works.
You needed the fucking guaranteed money contract, mate. That was the play. Because then when they fire you, it's like when those movie stars have the like play or pay, where like if you want them on the movie anymore, you have to pay them their full fee to fuck off. That's the play, mate. You should have done that. Should have done a sword art, basically. Just get all the bag. If they kick you, you get the whole bag. That's what I should really have done, Monty. Why did I never think of that in my career? I'm someone who's definitely either going to either get fired or just not want to work with someone anymore. I should really front load all my contracts that way. That would be the better way to do it, wouldn't it?
That, my Overwatch League contract was guaranteed. There's a reason I went.
There we go.
That's the only thing that was guaranteed about the Overwatch League. Boom, boom, that's it. End of the show. Right? On that note, we got. Should we wrap it? Is there anything more to talk about?
Yep. Thanks, Raz.
Well,
Have fun at the finals in Houston.
Yeah, we'll be
Appreciate
back with video questions after the break.
There we go.
We're back for viewer questions. Monty will now explain how does a viewer ask a question. Spoiler, not in Twitch chat right now. Nobody's reading Twitch chat. We're not reading it.
We're not reading our YouTube comments either because we hate interaction. Oh, speaking of YouTube.
And no fans. No, just the bad ones.
You should subscribe to our YouTube because we realize we're really bad at telling you to subscribe to YouTube. You probably already subscribed to YouTube if you're still watching it.
Like now, basically look down. Is that box red and says subscribe? If it is, click it. If it says subscribed, shut the fuck up and just watch the rest of the video.
All right, so you can
just
join
save that part and have me appear on the video. Like, if you see that thing down there, shut the fuck. Yeah, just replay that every video.
Or alternatively, if you don't want to subscribe, join our Discord and just add the League of Legends tag. And every time a League of Legends piece of content comes out, you'll get tagged there. You can get a Discord notification.
You'll get a push. Yes,
your choice. And speaking of our Discord, go to the Grog Coin Lounge if you have 25 Grog Coins. Link your Rally account, and then you can ask questions every week in the SI Questions channel that will pop up. And then we'll answer them. And I never read them in advance, so I'm like Ron Burgundy, where I'll just literally read whatever you say, and sometimes that's disastrous. Okay. So, if you could pick one video game franchise to get a good movie adaptation, what would it be? Hard mode. Pick something that isn't Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid would be a terrible movie, guys. Kojima
is. Yeah,
Kojima
exactly.
is fucking terrible at writing. I don't know how to tell you guys. His shit's super weird. It doesn't make any sense. There's tons of plot holes. It's all based on supernatural Deus Ex Machina. Metal Gear Solid would make a terrible movie. It would make a terrible movie.
And also, it would just be worse because what makes Metal Gear Solid fun is it's got a unique story, but then you play out other parts of the movie, essentially. That's just a movie you have to sit like a watch and be shit. And spoiler, he's not created anything original. He's taken all the fucking war movies and concepts over like 60 years and crushed them down. If you've never followed his social media, he's an enormous media fan. He like is a cinemaphile, video game. Like, he didn't invent any of that shit, guys. He just took all his favorite shit and made like sort of a pulp game out of it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like all the tropes that he enjoys. So like, it also wouldn't be that great a movie anyway, is it? Come on.
Yeah, it would be like 12 genres.
I'm trying to think what would be
one.
though. Like, what game would be really good as a movie?
I've got two. Deus Ex, obviously one of my all-time favorite games, does have a great story. Would be really cool to see like that conspiracy.
It's just the Matrix type thing, though. But yeah, sure.
Yeah. The other one would be BioShock Infinite, not the original BioShock, which is kind of a tired story, like Ayn Randian underwater story. But BioShock Infinite, I think, is a much more interesting story that would create a very cool movie.
I actually think the original premise for the first game of Fallout would be a pretty good movie if you did it properly. Like, that's a really interesting angle on like post-apocalyptic world, and you don't know, because remember the whole point of Fallout is you don't know what's going on. You learn the world as you go, don't you? And it opens up as that totally unique. On the one hand, it's like a retro feel, but at the same time, it's a futuristic story. You could do loads with that.
Yep.
People
Also,
love that genre as well, post-apocalyptic shite.
A testament to how good BioShock Infinite would be is that the actual gameplay of that game is very bad. It's like really not innovative, kind of boring, but the story and like the cinematic appeal of it is so good that it makes the game really good. It's basically entirely predicated on the story as it is. So I think that's a pretty good endorsement of what would be a good video game movie. But they're always fucked up and people fuck them up. Okay, let's move on. The eye test will always be king, but are there any statistics you are aware of from any of the main games you have been involved with that you think are particularly useful or reflective of the actual level of teams or players?
I mean, the problem is in League, I'm not that sure because it feels like the one that has the most context. I'll tell you the one I think is very underrated in CSGO, which is in CSGO, the raw stat I find is very useful, is just how many kills you average around. Nothing else, not what the plus minus is, not what the rating is, not what the damage. Because here's the thing, the people who have a very high kills per round, whether that doesn't mean their style's the best or that they work the best, but like just to get a raw amount of like kills in the game is very hard to do. Like nobody bad can do that basically. So for example, it's one of the reasons I always thought the player config was underrated, because since he played like a hard entry role, he's never going to have the best overall stats. Like obviously he's dying loads, but if you just ever saw how many kills he would get in a game, like you could tell he was just outrageously good at just raw combat mechanics in Counter-Strike. So I don't think that there are many in League though, as far as I know. There's never been like a sort of like one amazing stat that ever really defined how good you are, right?
The problem with League of Legends is that because, okay, so in Counter-Strike, there are fewer snowball mechanics, and there's like a rubber band mechanic that will get you guns again so that you can actually perform. And they have been adding rubber band mechanics to League of Legends, but League of Legends stats are always very heavily tainted by whether you're winning or not. So bad players can look better, like significantly better on good teams because they're also getting kind of ambient gold and getting carried. So you really have to be I think stats are useful in League, by the way. You just have to be very careful about how you contextualize them. And you have to, I think team stats are generally more useful because they tend to show trends like who's prioritizing Dragon or Herald is a really good one. Who's prioritizing like pushing lanes early to get first tower. And if you look at these in conjunction with drafts and team compositions, you can kind of get a better sense of why these like early game objectives are happening. But late game objectives are very hard. Sometimes like average game time could be useful for teams if they're delaying things, or like the number of objectives they need in order to close. It can tell you how kind of efficient they are with their money, but it's really hard. And individual player stats are based on, it's more useful in LCK and LPL because there's a larger sample size, but it can be so very dependent on what matchups you're playing, which champions you're playing, as to like how much damage you're doing, or what your early lane advantages are. Like if you're getting counterpicked every time and you're just like blind, you as a player in your team are blind picking you because you can survive the laning phase to give your teammates advantages, you might look worse than you actually are, even though your team is basically inherently giving you a handicap because you're a good player. So you just have to be very careful about how you interpret League of Legends stats, and there's so much context. And everybody's gonna be like, well, there's always context to stats. And yes, that's true, but I think it's more true in League of Legends because traditional sports, sure, it can depend on who gets fed the ball, but like you don't start to win basketball harder or like score more points because you're already ahead. Whereas that's not true in League of, like if you're ahead, you just get more ahead a lot of the time. Because of the snowball mechanics. Whereas in sports, that's not necessarily true. It can be true in like the NFL where, you know, a running back might look really good because if they have a strong running game in the first place, they're going to eat up the clock by handing, and you're already ahead. You're going to eat up the clock by handing the running back the ball more times, which means that they get more yards. So that running back might look better, but it could, you know, you could swap out that running back and the strategy might remain the same. So it's hard to tell.
Sure.
I guess there are some like one that I like is if you're talking about late game stats, I really like how much percentage of farm after 15 minutes because it kind of tells you how lanes are being allocated and how resources are being allocated. If you want an efficiency statistic, like damage per gold can be useful, but also that can be skewed because if you're playing a lot of split pushers, you may not be doing a lot of damage because you might just be in 1v1s instead of like doing AoE in a team fight. So, you know, it's just, you got to interpret it. You got to read the tea leaves in LoL, I think. But they are useful. People who say stats in LoL are not useful, I think are wrong. It's just, you really have to think about them.
When they say that, by the way, that's just them misphrasing. What they mean is they don't think they're definitive. For example, they don't think like the stat tells you everything. Obviously, there's a value to having stats. It's just like essentially the problem I have is this: most stats are best used by someone who already is an incredible eye test expert. So the problem is, right, for Monty, the stats might be great. If you are just a complete pleb and you don't know the game with your eye test, stats aren't going to help you that much more, mate. They'll get you sort of like vaguely in the right direction, but you won't then have the skill set to differentiate between what does this mean and put in the context. So I also think it's in the like eye of the beholder, as it were. It depends what you bring to the table, how much the stat can give you.
Yeah, and I'm a person who really likes stats. I think as a caster, like I use a lot of stats, more so than most other casters, I think. Which English-speaking country produces the best sports/esports broadcast talent? I mean, it has to be the the UK, right?
It's got to be the UK. Bearing in mind, like, we're way less population than USA. Like, just pound for pound, it's got to be. I think it's probably even absolutely the UK, right? Because the thing is, if by default people just typically like British accents as well, I think it's an advantage. Like, Americans for some reason love British accents. So it seems like if you look at every game, the joke is there's no actual like esports competitors from the UK. Typically, they're all the bloody talent, aren't they? Like, we're just the talent. That's it.
It's also, I think that there long has been a culture of banter in the UK and Australia in particular that is unique, where people, I think wit in Australian and British culture tends to be more highly valued than it is in American culture. And so that kind of like the ability to comfortably have repartee with people is much more acute in those cultures, which it makes them more fun on broadcast a lot of the time.
Oh, I will say, all you need to do is look at that bloody Will Smith thing with Chris Rock, mate. The Americans' take was they were all lost in the weeds of like, wow, and is it because Will Smith is getting sort of cocked and he lets his wife fuck with it, and she sleeps with him? The UK thing would just be like, can he not take a joke as a comedian? Like, that was like the fucking take, mate, of course. That was the main thing everyone had. Like, dude, he's a comedian. Like, isn't that can't he take a joke? Because, yeah, that's sort of the vibe, isn't it?
Yeah.
I also think, by the way, that is just suited to esports broadcasts, especially because, and actually, I'll even give you a topical point. The reason why I actually think, don't worry about the fact me and Richard Lewis aren't doing the next CSGO major, etc., etc., etc. It's actually the time, finally, where even though I still think we're the best, you can now bring in the other people and it won't be as much diminishing returns. Because nowadays, in theory, I don't know about this one because it's run by PGL as well, but you're hopefully getting to the point where you're going to have proper broadcasts that are just going to run on time and there's not going to be massive tech problems. At that point, other people could do the gig as well. But I also think in the early days of esports, when it was all mega scoffed and we were having a million tech delays and problems, it also helps if you have people who can essentially just fuck around and have a good sense of humor. That's going to be a massive boon to your broadcast team, isn't it? Whereas the American style's more sort of polished, so I think actually they would have suffered a little bit. I just remember DJ Wheat's face when he had to keep coming out on season 2 finals telling everyone the game isn't actually going live now. Wasn't a great affair, to give you that much.
I also think that in general, generally speaking and broadly speaking, the higher amount of political correctness in a culture, the less entertaining it is capable of being. And so, in the hierarchy of political correctness, I think like among English-speaking nations, like Canada is probably like the most conservative, being politically correct.
Yes.
Spoiler, guys, Canadians aren't very fucking funny people. And then it's probably America, and then it's probably UK, and then it's probably Australia.
Yeah.
Being the most politically incorrect. So
yes.
I enjoy that very much, but many Americans do not. That's my PC English-speaking country tier list right there. This is an interesting question. What's the best $200/150 or below purchase you've made in the last few years, and why?
That's such a specific price point. Okay, so I guess in theory he's trying to pick
$200.
I guess the vibe here is it's not supposed to be somewhat flashy. It's something that has some like special meaning or use in that sense. So what would it even be for me? I'm trying to think what it could be.
I mean, I think there are several like really obvious answers to this in terms of objects that I use on a I derive like a fucking Kindle. It's probably one of the most useful things you can ever buy in terms of the value per dollar. When you think about the time that you spend on it, how fucking useful it is to have on trips with you, the fact that I can pull it out and reference 100 books on it at any given point in time, incredibly useful. What else? I got a smoker recently that was around $200 that is fucking incredible for cooking. Like a lot of my stuff probably is cooking stuff because I cook almost every day. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, and you get a lot of really good shit. Like you can get a very high quality chef's knife, which you can use for 10 or 20 years for under $200, top of the line stuff like that. Very, very useful.
I don't know whether I don't have a good answer for this, mate. There's nothing fucking epic I bought for less than $300. I don't buy that many things. I just need my usual stuff, books and whatnot,
I mean, but the Kindle is something you use all the
I
time.
have a Kindle as well, but I bought that years ago. Didn't he say in the last few years or something? Or last
Sure,
year?
but I think it's just like, what objects do you use? I think we can interpret this question
All
as
right.
like,
By the
what
way, along
objects.
those lines, I would actually say the most is in this. It's Kindle for books. I have a little Amazon Fire. I sometimes put comics on, and you can put movies on that. Obviously, it's just a tablet like that big. Like, I think those are. By the way, if you're someone who, I'll put it this way: if you're someone who just has a PC because you're a hardcore gamer, so you have like a 2K PC or something, those small tablets, which nowadays, by the way, are like $50, are mad useful. Like, just chuck a bunch of stuff on that when you're going anywhere, like for an hour, 2 hours, put it in your backpack. Remember, it's going to be super slimline. Like, that's one area I feel like people are really lost on. Because when me and you were coming up as kids, Monty, they used to flex that shit as what the future would be all the time. That'd be screens and surfaces, and you're throwing one thing from here to there, and you just go to the couch. Like, the problem is no one does it in real life. So I actually think tablets in general, they're mega cheap now. And by the way, you can just buy like the 128 gigabyte fucking SIM card, or whatever you call it, like SD card, and put in double the memory. So you can have loads of shit on there. Like, if people don't know, when I first started getting into American football stuff, I won't say where I got them, but I had like 100 games of Peyton Manning just on my fucking Fire. Every time I was on a plane, doing something boring, stuck somewhere, I could just tune into the game again. It was mega.
Yeah, I will say, in terms of cooking equipment, if you want something that will like really help you, especially if you're new to cooking, getting an Instant Pot is like $80 to $100. And the amount of value you can get out of that, it's an electronic pressure cooker, because it can absolutely change your life if you are not used to cooking, because it's incredibly easy to use. It makes really good food that would take hours and hours and hours to slow cook in like under an hour. And you can make it at a volume where you just freeze half of it after you're done cooking, and then you can thaw it out at a later date. And so you can cook a ton of other stuff that you need. It's very, very useful. And I mean, the number of times I've used it when I bought it for $80 is like crazy. So it's wonderful. If you had to award one, who is your coach / staff of the split in EU and NA?
Here's the problem. Since he said the split, I'm assuming he means the regular split, not like playoffs as well. If it means the regular split, I would give the road coaching staff. Obviously, if it was in playoffs as well, it'd have to be G2, wouldn't it?
Correct.
Just the way they played. What about for LCS, though? What would you pick for that? I mean, again, if we're taking playoffs, dude, it might even be fucking Evil Geniuses at this point. Look what a great job they've done. If we're adding in playoffs as well.
Yeah, I think that given the tools that they had and the fact that they've got this rookie mid laner, they've done an extremely good job. I really like their drafts in the playoffs. Seems like that's... I mean, I don't think there was a lot of competition in NA. Like,
True.
you had the implosion of Cloud9. You had a TL that arguably has underperformed, and so your other choices are 100 Thieves, which was kind of bad at the beginning of the split, and EG, which also had their ups and downs. But I think in terms of utilizing the pieces that they've had, they've been doing quite well. Oh man, this is such an easy question. Would you rather only watch anime for the rest of your life, or only eat spicy food for the rust of your life? I fucking love spicy food. So that's easy. I fucking love spicy food. I wish all my food was spicy already.
Yeah, that's my problem. I have the opposite problem, where if anything, I think for too many years, I actually ate way too much. Everything had sauce or a spice or something. Like, if people don't know, as I've told people, even when I say I eat Korean barbecue, you don't eat Korean barbecue either. I take two of those sometimes things myself, personally. That's just me. That's one thing for everyone at the whole table. By the way, I learned ages ago, Koreans definitely aren't eating as much samjang as I am. That's why they're not just having like bowels getting fucking wrecked every single meal. So, if anything, I'm going the other way, boys. I'm trying to eat more of a reasonable diet, let my palate actually learn what tastes are again, start to experience flavor. I'm trying to go the other direction.
So I love spicy food. I love chili peppers. I love all cuisines that contain chili peppers. In fact, I am on a mission right now I literally bought a bunch of Sichuan chili peppers from a direct, high quality Sichuan ingredients website. And then I just bought a bunch of and imported, I got mailed to me a bunch of fucking chili peppers from New Mexico, like dried chilies, so that I can make things more spicy and make more of these foods from scratch. So for breakfast this morning, before this show, I had a corn tortilla with some roasted chili pepper beans on top of 2 eggs. Okay, so I eat the shit all the time.
Joke is, he asked the wrong question. The real question is, do you only ever get to watch anime, or can you only ever eat non-spicy food your whole life? Now, that's fucking Sophie's choice right there. I don't even know. I even think thematically, anime, non-spicy food, same thing to me. Just a bunch of useless shite in it.
Yeah, here's what you think about chili. If you say you don't like spicy food, the thing is like you're still in baby's phase where the thing is, people don't like the fact that the chili pepper burns their mouth.
Yes.
The point is that if you eat enough spicy food, you don't actually get your mouth burned anymore. And what you taste is the glorious chili pepper, and it tastes delicious, right?
It even tastes very sweet. That's one of the things that people wouldn't imagine. Yeah.
So like, if you get to the point where you just don't, it's like not spicy to you anymore, or it's like a pleasant spicy. And also that releases, by the way, the very act of eating spicy food, like releases pleasant basically pleasant like dopamine in your brain. You actually get to taste the depth of flavor, and it just dimensionalizes dishes. So nobody likes their mouth being on fire. It's just if you eat enough of it, your mouth stops being on fire. Next, what are your thoughts on allowing coaches to be in the call with players during a match as a sort of shot caller / macro game IGL? Oh my God, this one again. Do you think they could compete with the East if coaches were more directly involved in this? I think the game should be for the players. Like, the coaches have a place, but inside the game, having like the omniscient guy directing things, it basically just turns the players into puppets. And like,
he's just playing StarCraft.
Yeah, exactly. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing, guys. If you want that, just fucking watch StarCraft. Watch 1v1 RTS. You will get that experience.
I've got the compromise for everyone. If you want current League of Legends, we can't have coaches because by default, the coach would just become the one commander giving all the strategy. If you want to have that game though, fuck these players. This is just going to be StarCraft, and now Koma's the player we're watching. We're no longer watching Faker. He's just someone controlling a unit that is in Koma's army. I'm with you, Monty. If you want that, we can have that. By the way, we can give you the whole pitch for that. If you ever want that esport, give us a few million, we'll make it the best shit of all time. Problem is, that isn't actually what fans want, I don't think. Yeah. I actually think in League, by the way, it would ruin it. Because unfortunately in League specifically, I think the fact that a game is one entity and someone could see the whole thing coming out, I think between the best coaches, I think it would make it like sort of too much of a stalemate type game, you know? I think it'd be too obvious how people would play. I think one of the things that I find cool is that when you get a totally unique game scenario, I don't know how these players are going to react. They've never been in this situation before. And there was nobody can help them. They've got to figure it out on the fly. It's one of the things I always found so impressive about Koreans during the period of dominance in League of Legends is that some of those teams, like the SKT teams, they looked almost as though their coach was bloody talking while they were doing those comebacks. They were doing everything perfectly. The timing was right. When they caught people, like knowing not to fight early, it's they did look like essentially that's how you know someone did a good job, is when it looks like the fucking coach is involved. Problem is, I think it would ruin the game, mate. I don't think it's like CS or the NFL where you can let someone like come in for a second and then come out. Like, you can't really do it in League.
Yeah, plus like it would ruin a lot of the really cool shit that we've seen, like how good G2 was in these very creative scenarios, and it would take some of the luster off of the players. And at least in CS:GO, you always have the coach in between the rounds anyway to be able to like alter strategies and like call the play or whatever. But it's just like in the NFL, when the play is being run, it's up to the player's decision making in the moment, right? So I'm not a huge fan of that. And I just feel like this is a take from people who just don't watch 1v1 RTS, where it's like I have that itch scratched as a massive RTS fan by simply watching RTSs, so it just feels like team sports shouldn't be that way. Since it appears that many esports entities are inextricably linked in multiple levels of conflicts of interest, should esports be burned down as an industry metaphorically? I mean, yes, we've discussed this many times. It's
one thing I can't handle, Monty. This is one thing I find infuriating about the Zoomers and the nephews, is they don't ever listen to what the other person says, but they keep talking. So what happens is, you get 2 years later, after the TSM Holy War, people still think the point we're making is this: conflict of interest cannot be allowed to exist. You're fucking mental if that's what you took from that. What we were making the point of the whole time was just disclose them. That's it. That's it. All you have to do, if you are Bloop, is just say at the top of the article, I work for this team that I am reporting on. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's fine after that. Nobody ever said you can't work for these companies. That's why the retort of, but Monty and Thorin have got, yes, and we disclaim them all. I've said on the show a million times I have shares in the company that fucking invented ProView. I've said a million times Monty works for Cloud9 when he commented on them. That's all you have to do. But you are so stupid that you haven't listened even once to what we were saying. So you still think we are saying if a conflict of interest exists that we can't continue. By the way, there will always be conflict of interest. It's actually the way that the fucking industry is structured even. It's like politics. Everyone's fucking fingers are in all the pies. The point is, this is the key detail of all as well, boys. It's not about me and Monty. You need to know that there's a conflict of interest, because when you know that, you can apply that context. So if you read an article by Bloop or working with a team that he works with, you can go, oh, but he works with them, so I'll take a grain of salt that like maybe he wouldn't put like a negative aspect. You can at least value it that way. The problem is when you don't know there's a conflict of interest, but there is one. Because in that scenario, you would assume the opposite, wouldn't you? You would assume, well, Monty doesn't work for Cloud9, so if he's saying that's good, it must be. No, that's the problem. The only problem is in the disclosure. So I hope people can just get that. Whoever's the editor, clip that and just make that 1 minute fucking video and let me just link it every time. We'll even have like bloody conflict of interest hash like exclamation point in the bloody Twitch chat. Bring this clip up.
Or, if there is a conflict of interest, the companies and indeed the leagues need to handle it in a mature fashion. Like, it's not acceptable for Lena to be dating Doublelift while Lena is making roster decisions for the League of Legends team. That shouldn't be acceptable to the LCS. Okay, that she should recuse herself from any League of Legends operations, right? It's just that simple. It's the same shit. When I was commissioner of Flashpoint and we did an RMR, I couldn't actually enforce rules because I was employed by partner teams, and it would be a conflict of interest for me to be an impartial arbiter of a tournament that contained both partner and non-partner teams within the RMR system, right? So I couldn't do it, and I recused myself from that position, and I would have handled indeed the things that happened differently. You can go watch the Four Horsemen episode about that. So these things, it's just like people don't take the responsibility themselves to resolve the conflict of interest, and they just pretend that these corrupt systems, didn't happen. It's like, of course you're going to talk with your significant other about what is going on within the roster that your significant your significant other is playing on. Like, that's going to happen. So it just can't be allowed to happen. Somebody else at the company has to just put you in the black box, protect you from that information so that you can't affect that. And what's disgusting is that the league itself, the leagues don't seem to care about this. They don't seem to give a shit at all, which makes them corrupt. So they need to deal with these. They need to deal with these scenarios. What is the most unfortunately timed statement to have happened in esports?
See, here's the sad thing. I actually know, but it's a joke that I referenced on a Four Horsemen that we're not going to tell because it just puts someone in a bad spot. But there was a very bad 4-power one time that was like that. But I won't say what it is. I'll try to think of another one. There must be another good one. A classic one would obviously be. There's going to be a million Reginald and TSM ones that they've said some line and then fucking
recently, like the ESL GG for all women's tournaments after announcing that they were wholly owned by the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund is like,
it set me up as well for so many great moments. Because here's the problem, guys. I'll let you guys in because you're League of Legends people anyway. Basically, it's created a checkmate where I'm allowed to be the most obnoxious arsehole imaginable. But if you actually get upset, I've trapped you and you're actually morally bankrupt. So it's my dream. Because here's the scenario. What I do is I make really offensive jokes about people dying in Yemen from bombs. Because if you get offended, the idea you're offended by my joke, but you actively support the company that is doing the dropping of the bombs through the people who own them, you're fucked. Like, they're not doing it, but they are owned by the people doing the bombing. That implies you find the joke more offensive than the bombing. So I've actually morally checkmated you. So basically, I have a great joke like that. Since they did the GG for all, and they made a hashtag, of course, I use the hashtag every time I talk about the Yemen situation. So I had a great one the other day. I said, actually, ESL, you got to give them credit. They do believe in equality. Their bombs don't discriminate. Who they tear apart. See, I can do this all day long, boys. You set yourselves up for that. One's a pretty bad one, I would say. Because essentially, the joke is, you've just made a mega fucking virtue signal flex, and then right afterwards, it'd be harder to find more evil people that you could partner with in business, essentially, right? That's like going, and of course, I'm going to be on the side of the orphans, and now let's welcome the new president of the board, the Joker. Like, what are you doing? Like, you did that, mate. No one made you set it up like that. You fucked it, haven't you? I'm telling you, another good one. Let me think of another one.
The riot, $100 million settlement for literally every woman who's ever worked at their company, and then like rolling out the Game Changers tournaments. That was pretty good too. That was.
Oh, I've got a good one for you. Here's a brilliant one, Monty, because again, this one actually morally checkmates this guy. How about when the guy who was, I don't know if he still is, but he was the LEC commissioner, said at the end of last year, notice the date there, guys, post-riot lawsuit over harassing women and post them attempting to tamper with and fuck with the lawyers of the people who were suing them for all that. He then implied that my career has been a net negative for esports, right? Essentially, sir, you're implying that here's my question to him. How many games of Timo make sexual harassment okay? That's the equation I'd like you to solve, sir. You resolve that fucking equation, cunt. Like, how could you even have the gall to say that, mate? At the end of the day, I've done some tweets and I've done a billion pieces of content. Like, it's like this, the scales for me. Yours is, like I say, someone has to really think Timo was really worth it.
I really love this, too, because the way people, formulate things, they're like, oh, well, tweeting is the same as an action. So it's like, if I like or dislike this tweet, it is the same as $100 million in harassment settlement. I'm like, okay. You're like, I like this person because of the tweets they make. Therefore, it's okay that they kill people. It's like, no, that's not how it works. But apparently that is how it works to Zoomers. So just love that shit. We'll move on. What is the all-time peak overrated team in CS/LOL?
Ooh, for LOL. He means all time, so it has to be the most overrated team ever. Let me think. Who would that be?
2014 TSM probably is way up there.
Does anyone really actually care about that team? Isn't that just only TSM fans who bring that one up, though? You know what I mean? Who could it be, though? Let me think. I mean, I'm going to hurt people's feelings. No, I can't do that, actually. Here's the problem, because it has to really be someone mega overrated. Like, so for example, it can't be like a champion who wasn't actually that good. It has to be someone who like had no business even being considered good ever. Let me think who it could be. Who would that be, though? Let me think.
Surely there have to be some like Chinese super teams that were mega overrated in League of Legends.
I mean, in theory, like LGD ended up being shit, didn't it? That was supposed to win worlds. If people don't know, it was a super team, except the jungler was fucking garbage. But we'll forget him for the moment. Yeah, they were supposed to win worlds. By the way, that's actually even more egregious how bad they were. Because remember, they even had opposite style elite Korean top laners. They could swap in and out. Like, that should be like the fucking easiest win of all time, mate. That was like a real 6-man rotation, even. Like, holy shit. So that was a shit the bed one for sure. I'm trying to think, is there any Western team that was ever that ridiculous, though? Because the problem is obviously like a million TSM Fnatic teams were overrated, but did anyone ever really go that far, though? Let me think.
Maybe like 2015 Origin or 2015 Fnatic when both those teams made this.
Maybe 2015 Fnatic, because let's be real, them going undefeated in the regular split, not even in the playoffs, just didn't lose any games. People acted like they were going to win worlds.
Yeah,
like
that's
just straight up win worlds. Like, and remember, it's not like they were sending bombs that year. They sent fucking SKT, KT, and the Rock Tigers essentially. Like, Korea was mega. That was wild. Because the other thing they did as well, I remember now, is they just like they made it sound like there was like that much between like Fnatic and the Korean teams. They were close compared to Western teams, but yeah, it was ridiculous.
I mean, during that match too, it was a 3-0, and like Smeb on the Tigers played reverse matchups in top lane and smashed both sides of the match.
It was hilarious.
It was not good. It was not good. It was funny being in Belgium though, because it was very quiet.
I can tell you the obvious team for CSGO, and it's going to hurt people's feelings again. It's Cloud9 that won the CSGO major. Because here's the problem. They were really good, by the way, in that one playoff bracket. They weren't even, if people don't know this, in that whole tournament they weren't stomping. They started the major out going 0-2 in the Swiss system and were on an elimination point. But they came back, and yes, they played amazingly in the final. Here's the problem, though. That was the only day ever, I'm not exaggerating, that lineup was ever that good. I watched all of the people don't get this. They played like months and months before. before, they played months and months afterwards, and they were nowhere close to that level. They were like the fourth best team normally, and on that one day, they really were good enough to win the majors. So the problem is, like, the reason I can tell you this team is definitely overrated, Monty, is because, dude, people try to argue that the Team Liquid that won the Grand Slam was the #1 team in the world is like worse than this team because this team won the major. So their argument is winning one tournament once ever makes you better than the team that was the real world #1 for like 4 months.
Also, that final was like, a couple rounds away from them losing.
They almost lost. So. They were facing elimination point 5 of them in a row, something, or 4 in a row. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, people just took what is, by the way, a brilliant story. It's a great fucking narrative, but they took it and as usual went way too far with it as a premise.
If it had been a stomp in the final, I think maybe you could potentially make that argument, but it was so close that it does seem kind of ridiculous. Next is, and final question. For some ungodly reason, Science has cloned Tyler1 4 times. Which current pro teams can this horrific team beat at League, assuming they don't kill each other? So here's the thing.
I mean, he technically plays all the roles. So
I know, that's what I was saying. He's got the challenger and all the roles.
That's actually a good question as a result, though. He does play the roles,
So first off, I think Tyler1's a great entertainer. I don't really know how good Tyler1 is because here's the thing, guys. I never, ever, 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 ever watch streams. Okay.
Yeah, obviously, it was
literally the only thing I watch are professional games. I don't know, like people find this very weird, but I never watch like entertainer streams. I rarely even watch professional player streams because I would always rather spend that time either doing something else or watching VODs of other professional regions in the world, right? So for me, I don't spend a lot of time doing that. So I honestly have no idea how good Tyler1 is. I can say I would watch the shit out of that purely for my own entertainment. Like if he were to take on Immortals or CLG or what have you, TSM right now, I would watch that 1,000%. That would be incredibly fun for me to watch. But because that doesn't happen and Tyler1 doesn't hold any specific interest to me personally, I don't really know. And I am incredibly ignorant about what is going on Twitch outside of professional esports matches. I literally have no idea ever. I don't know or care about the drama. I don't even know who's popular outside of like XQC. And like, I guess I know Tyler1's like the biggest streamer, but this is a huge, like thing that I never touch. It's the same shit as watching TV. I don't watch every TV show. I'm basically just watching the live sports on TV, and I don't know what the latest like soap opera is. I have no clue. I
mean, the obvious answer is there wouldn't be anyone, would he? He wouldn't actually be that good. Like, here's the problem you guys have. It's an obvious problem to have. You think that the worst player in the LCS actually sucks at League of Legends. You don't understand. He is fucking rookie compared to you. So what you don't get is, I could take the worst players in, and by the way, I see this in LEC all the time, Monty. Do you know how many times I see someone come in LEC, not be that good, go back down to ERLs and be absolutely the best player at their position and be like a fucking amazing looking player? So the real problem here is they don't realise how enormous the gap would be even between Tyler1 and most of the LCS pros.
There's also a lot of questions where he spends so much of his time on his stream, like thinking about ways to be entertaining, that's probably like handicapping his actual ability to play the game because being entertaining takes up at least part of his brain power. And so if he was not on stream, I think there'd be a lot of questions about what his skill ceiling would be. He's obviously an incredibly, he grinds like a motherfucker. I think he plays, somebody once said he like plays like 10,000 games a season, which is just absurd.
Respect.
It's absurd. So he has great work ethic and he obviously has some, a good level of natural ability, but it's just not like, why would he do that when he can make more money than any professional player, probably outside of like some very, very high end Asian players. And maybe he might even make more money than them, frankly. I mean, that guy makes so much money. So it doesn't seem like it's really in his best interest. So there you go.
That's the end.
That's it. That's the end. See you next week. Dagnall will be on. We'll talk about LPL and LCS finals. Bye.